What is going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the Shop Podcast. Another amazing weekend. We got another phenomenal show lined up for you. And to be exact, that's the Shop Podcast 287. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal weekend. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, being safe, playing a bunch of video games. I've had a phenomenal weekend so far myself. But shout out to everybody watching this live. I saw Shonsu in here, RSJ. What's up, Tim A? What's up, Talos? What's up, everybody hanging out? Go ahead and retweet that link. Let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. We do this every single Saturday. You guys know the time. All of that stuff is in the description. As you guys can see, we are down one amigo. Shout out to Fuzz. Had a late emergency, man, but I hope everything is well with him and his family. So prayers, thoughts, everything going on with his personal situation. So he may be here a little later if we're lucky. If not, he might not be here. So it's all good. No big deal. We're going to rock this thing out anyway. And before I get to our amazing guest here, I do want to give a shout out to, I was on the Gaming Circle podcast earlier today. So you guys go check that out. It's Kei Asante Everborn Saga. A phenomenal show. I had a great time, man. We rocked out for about 3.5 hours. So almost a living split screen. Almost, not quite.
Almost. That's why I didn't see a Kei Asante in the chat. Kei Asante, if you're out in this chat, listen, brother. We missed you, okay? Normally you pop in. I was wondering what the heck was going on. And then I see you on Go Live today, bringing up the cult of the Star Marchers. Listen, brother, we're going to talk.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, he got words for you. Asante. Shout out to Asante and Everborn, man. It was a great show. It was actually a record show. So they had about 120 people in there.
Nice.
I heard it was a record. So I so I'm glad to be a part of that. Don't know if I had any influence, but shout out to everybody that came out, showed support. Nice. And hopefully if you're visiting from there to here, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe. I know you're going to enjoy what we got going on here every single weekend at the shop. But I've been talking too much. Let's turn this over to our guest. And we got a phenomenal one this week. It's been a jam-packed week. Still, it's been busy. We got a lot to talk about, bro. But how have you been? What you been playing? What you been up to?
Hey, PTK, I'm back in the kingdom of Blam. Hey, it's always excited to be here, man. Chopping it up with some of my brothers. Especially got my brother from another Pong here, locked and loaded. I'm usually always lurking on a Saturday night while I'm getting some gaming in, and usually here has been some Monster Hunter Rise. But nonetheless, what have I been playing? Well, speaking of Monster Hunter Rise, that has been my jam of recently. I recently became a Monster Hunter fan through World, and so that's kind of continued. I probably have at least 200 to 300 hours in World itself. Nice. And then with Rise coming out, it was just really surprising because Rise is more in line with the traditional Monster Hunters.
Yeah, I've heard
that you would see, and it's also they've done a lot of things. They learned a lot of things coming from World. A lot of just. What's a good way to put it? Quality of life improvements. In the games, in the game is a bit quicker than World was, but I've been thoroughly enjoying that. About World Tier 6 on that. And then the other thing too has been this game that's been shadow dropped this week that I've been having a good time.
I wonder what you're talking about, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think we'll get it. I think we'll get into it when we talk about the direct. So,
but shout out to you, man. So you just been playing a bunch of games, chilling. Awesome. Glad you could be here, man. I hit you up early this week, man. You always make time for the podcast. So shout out to you. You guys do me a favor. You guys already know how we do here at the Shop Podcast. All the information is in the details in the description. Go show Steal some love. Go show Living Split Screen some love. We got goals to hit, and these are phenomenal people. Him and Pong, make sure they hit those goals or get as close as we possibly can in 2023 to those goals. But shout out to you still for hanging out with us, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, brother. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us this evening, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Jasper, Fuzz is out for a little bit, man. He may be on the show today. He may not be. Had a last minute emergency, brother. So just to put that out there since you mentioned it in the comments. But turn this over to my other brother. The battery of the Shop Podcast, man. How you been, Pong? It's been a busy week. I know you got the wheels greased, all ready to go this morning. But how you been? What you been playing, brother?
Well, listen, I'm newly crowned prophet of a cult. Steel is the oracle. We decided this morning on Living Split Screen. Steel has the clip from Living Split Screen. We were discussing the Starfield delay 9 months ago, Steel, right when it happened, that weekend after it happened. Yeah. He's got the clip handy, folks. Steel was the first to use the 3/23/23 date, by the way, which we may talk about. He was the first to use it. Now, I consider myself a prophet because I've been going on in shows. I like the date myself. I agreed with him. And I've been spreading the good word. And now it comes around that Rand L. Thor, shout out to Rand and Jazz over at Xbox 2, Rand decided to dub this Star Marchers, or we were trying to come up with a name. I'll just go with Star Marchers,
whatever.
March Fielders, whatever the case may be.
Nice.
The people who believe Starfield is launching in March, specifically 3/23, is now a cult. And he he notified everybody that I was the leader. And then Kei Asante goes on Go Live and continues this trend today.
Man.
So now it's a thing.
Now it's a thing.
Yeah,
so
it's
anyway.
a thing. Hey, it is what it is.
So I'm not only the battery of the Shop Podcast, I'm also the prophet of a cult. So we're good
as long as we're not serving Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, okay. Rand said we are serving Kool-Aid.
No, we can't do that.
Because these guys don't believe. So, right, there are a bunch of non-believers out here. Anyways, let's get down to business here. It's been a great week. Coming off the Developer Direct. These are the weeks. Again, every week is fun. This industry is nonstop news, but this is the one. These are the ones we always talk about, right? We come off a great show, showing off games, gameplay, getting to hear from devs for a change during a show, which we'll get into, raises the energy levels, man. And the chats have been more energized. The panel members have been more energized this week. So it's been a great week so far. Play-wise, man, it's been kind of the same. Halo Wars 2, Dishonored 2. Been rocking out on both of those. Been watching a ton of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition videos, getting my strategies ready for when that launches next Tuesday. Oh boy, next week is going to be fun, folks. So I've been doing a lot of that, and because of I did play, as Steel was alluding to, the Shadow Drop game, of course, Hi-Fi Rush, which we'll talk about. I did have to download that and try it out. Got my own thoughts on it, but we'll get there. And then I also, because of that show, and I've talked about it here before, PTK, I have not popped back in Elder Scrolls Online in a long time. I left it over on PlayStation because my character is locked over on that side of ESO, and I can't do cross progression. They won't let me bring my character over, which I was hoping they were going to announce in this show. But after watching this showcase, and the great presentation that the ESO guys gave with Necrom, the new DLC, which will be dropping next June, along with a new character class, I kind of got excited again. And you know me and Bethesda, right? This ain't Todd's game, but it's ZeniMax Online creation engine. It's a stepbrother, right, to Skyrim. So, and like I said, I got 300 to 500 hours in over on the PlayStation side. I decided it was time, and I re-downloaded ESO. And I've been rocking some ESO too, getting back into it again, having some fun because all the DLC is available through the 31st. I was hoping they were going to carry that through the February. I thought that would be a better idea to give people a chance because there's so much in this game, but that's okay. They gave us through the 31st. So I checked it out again, and guess what? That old crack habit comes back again. So I'm loving ESO again. That's my gameplay this week, but we do have a lot to get into, PTK. So let's get down to business, brother.
Man, so shout out to you. Thank you, man, for always being here every single week, man. The Battery of the Shop Podcast, Pong. So once again, shout out to Fuzz, man. But he's right. We got a lot to talk about. You guys, I'm sure, have seen a bunch of different shows this week, man. But we gotta start with the poll of the week. We had a phenomenal one this week. So shout out to everybody who partakes in the poll of the week. Once again, that is up every single Monday on my Twitter account. All that information is down in the description below. So if you want to be a part of the poll of the week, go follow me there. Be a part of that, then come talk to us about it again on Saturday, man. So we had a really good one this week. So this one this week was what will be the Xbox big first-party game for the second half of 2023. It's a question that we've all been pondering and wondering probably since last year, since they first announced that E3 was going to be for the next 12 months. So seemingly from June to June. And so that left a lot, question marks outside of, what's past June for 2023. So I threw out a couple different ideas, really only 3 options. Avowed, Hellblade 2, or other. Hellblade 2 ran away with the vote, 59%, so it was pretty lopsided. So wanted to see, one, if chat, do you guys agree with the poll? If you guys had another option. Now that might change now that we've had a show. So this question was a little bit premature. But we're gonna start with our guest, man. We're gonna start with you still. So which out of those options you think any of those hit late 2023, or maybe it's the other option? Maybe it's neither of the two.
When you put that poll up, I voted for Hellblade 2,
Okay.
mainly because of my hype level for the game, and then 2, I keep seeing Ninja Theory post little things here and there. Seem like they're constantly in work and probably refining some things down. And based off that little teaser clip they gave us last time that people don't believe is gameplay, or is from the game at all, they just think it's all CGI. Although if you played the first game, you could probably understand why it's probably in line with being gameplay. I think they're really getting ready to get that game out for release. And it's just going to depend on what Xbox is looking for, man. Because again, I've been another one stickler for what second and third parties are going to drop in there. But Hellblade 2 is going to definitely be my choice out of that.
Okay. All right. I think that's a solid choice. And I think it makes sense too for a lot of different reasons that you talked about. Hellblade 2 is one of the games that we've seen from a couple years ago that we've actually gotten like quite a bit of progress on. Like we've seen gameplay, we've seen 2, 3, 4 times at this point, and it's looked better every time we've seen it. And we get to see a little more of the game every time they show it as well too. And I believe they wrapped up mocap a few months ago as well, or like maybe sometime last year, they wrapped up mocap. Yeah. So, that there's a lot of that goes into this game. So that tells me that they're probably in a polishing phase. So it does make sense that the game could possibly drop at the end of this year. Obviously, Avowed would make sense, but just because we haven't seen as much, I would leave that a little lower. You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't vote Avowed. We haven't seen really much of anything outside of that the initial first time we saw it, which wasn't actually gameplay more than likely. So I would probably vote Hellblade 2 as well. There's some other options you can probably throw in there too, but I think I would go Hellblade 2. So I think I'd go with the field on this one. But we're gonna throw this over to you, Pong, see what your vote is. And once again, chat, let us know, would you guys vote on the poll? I know it may be different now that we had the event, and we got some dates, and one date in particular we didn't get, so maybe it's shifted.
So you're turning this over to me right now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I initially went with Hellblade 2. Okay. Well. I was, last year, I was on the Avowed train. But as time has gone on, we've gathered some more information, heard some little bit more smoke about Avowed. I do believe that one is next year. So I chose Hellblade 2. But there's a caveat here.
Okay.
And it's just something to think about. It's something to start kind of pondering. Again, we won't know anything until E3. Won't know anything until later in the year. But if the people who are stating that both Motorsport and Starfield are going to be delayed, if they're right, and some of the people have actually been suggesting that Starfield gets pushed to holiday. If that happens, guess what, folks? We got to prepare ourselves. Age of Empires 4 will be the big second half launch outside of those two for Microsoft. So there's a chance. There's an outside chance. And Mav and I had this conversation with Rand when we had him on PM to PM a couple weeks ago. There's an outside chance, folks, that, again, we might just be getting the 2022 titles for 2023. And they go ahead and push everything to 2024. And we could be in this god-awful, in my opinion, god-awful cycle that Xbox never gets themselves out of pushing titles for other titles and not dropping games when they're ready. So that's why I've been on the train that you drop these games when they're ready. You've got too many coming, and you're gonna have traffic jams. You're gonna have points in time where games don't necessarily line up in a clear roadmap, and those games are gonna be ready, and you got to drop them. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. For right now, with where we sit at today, I'll stick with my Hellblade 2. But it is something to ponder. It's something to take a look at and question. If both of those games get moved, that might be it. That might be it. And Age of Empires 4, maybe a surprise game out of it if they get a Quake reboot or something like that, maybe. But I'm not going to hold my breath at this point. So,
and I don't want to sideline the show about that or anything like that. That it's just really strange that if you put a date on Starfield for 11/11/22, and then you get end up doing another holiday date.
Yep.
Are you saying you're gonna do it November again? And why? It's just so weird that how are you in polishing for? Does the game really needed this much time?
No,
and
that would be a roadmap move. Steele, that would be a roadmap move. So that's what people are arguing.
So weird.
So
yep.
So I have a different point of view on that, and I understand that, right? So and we talked about this. Shout out K Asante and everyone. We brought this up candidly, and they actually argued about this with each other back and forth on the show. Two different opposing points of view. The only saving grace, but the one thing I think people have to remember is that this industry is fluid. It doesn't feel like it. They give dates, but those dates are always fluid. So one thing that people got to understand is that they just take snapshots of how things are going to go, right? That snapshot isn't always the final portrait. Things change throughout the year depending on how the dominoes fall. The one thing about this year that I'm okay with that didn't happen last year is that we already have 3, 4, 5 months worth of stuff that we can look forward to. We didn't even have that last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they're actually getting off to a way better start with the direct. I get Forza didn't get a date, but 4 other games did. And that's we wouldn't even get in that last year. So I'll give them credit for progress, and actually they've pretty much cleaned the slate for the first 4 or 5 months for the most part.
Not until Starfield and Forza get dates. They haven't cleaned anything.
But what I mean is, that's a personal preference. They haven't cleaned it for you. I get it.
Yeah.
So
they haven't. No. I would argue, PTK, they haven't cleaned it because those are 2022 games that got pushed.
Well, that's
so. What did they have for 2023?
That's what I mean by things are fluid. Things change, plans change. That's the thing about the industry. I know it doesn't feel good as a consumer. We don't. It's uncomfortable. This is never a comfortable conversation. But at the end of the day, I can, and I'm sure we can all. And this is always a saving grace. I would say, Starfield can't be a broken game.
It's not going to be.
I know it won't be, but it can't be. That's my art. I'll always argue that it can't be it can't come out the way 76 came out. Like that.
No, it won't be that.
It won't be because it was been polishing phase since last year. It was in polishing phase last spring,
and that's great. And that means it's going to be a better game for it at the end of the day, which is way better than the other result that essentially could happen.
I think the thing that kills me, and I don't mean to interrupt real quick, PTK, I think the thing that kills me about the entire conversation is that there is no consistency with a lot of people when they have this conversation. You can't say that Xbox isn't consistent in marketing and talking to people, and then when they give us dates and they give us a timeline and they give us all this extra information, then we now turn around and say, oh, well, if the game needs to be pushed, it just needs to be pushed. I know they gave us a timeline, but who really cares about the timeline? We want a complete game. Of course we want a complete game, but if that's the case, do not shoot yourself in the foot by giving people, again, a 12-month window and then not being able to stick within that 12-month window. And you have to come out earlier. Like, again, so Bethesda also made a support page, and again, people can feel how they want to feel about that. They made a support page to double down and let you know, hey, we're still going for first half of the year in 2023. Now, again, I agree with you. We want a complete game. We want it to, be in its best light, but at the same time, and this is always going to be my sticking point, we cannot say they're bad at marketing and they're bad at because they are the only ones talking to us. Let's be honest and say that. But we can't say that they're bad at doing these things, and then when they finally coincide and say, "Oh, well, here you go. Here's the roadmap," and then they don't stick to the roadmap, and then now people are giving excuses before the roadmap.
No. So I'm not I don't want you and Fuzz just showed up, by the way. We don't want to derail you. What's up, Fuzz? How you doing,
Fuzzy just walked into this. Let's go, Fuzz. Yeah. Come on in with some energy, Fuzz. Let's go.
What's up,
yeah, I'm good, guys. Man, okay. I'll get into it after the show, but yeah. Boredom breeds foolishness, but that I'll just leave it at that. But,
okay.
Man,
all right.
Idle hands are the devils.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But Man,
glad you're here though, man. For real.
I'm glad to be here. Let Steel finish. Go ahead, Steel.
No, I mean that was essentially okay. It. I'm not holding PTK's foot to the fire or anybody else.
No.
But that's more so like that's the perspective that me and Pong come from, because that has been the conversation up to that point before we got a timeline. Why don't we have a time? Oh, well, we don't have this. We don't have this. And they put a date in pen and then push that date out and then kind of continue to try to double, triple down on something.
And I get that, but that's why I said things are and this is never a comfortable conversation because we all have different levels of want. Like I might want this game to be out now. Like Pong absolutely is on a different level of want when it comes to Starfield than I am. So I'm obviously going to be maybe a little bit more lenient about this than he will, at least from that perspective. I get it. I'm never going to absolve a company for putting something in writing and then not doing what they said they're going to do. And I've never done that with Xbox. I've always made sure I've tried to be consistent. I also understand that things can change because the industry, a lot of things like move around a lot, and there's moving parts. So like, I don't want to use that as a crutch or anything like that. It's just that maybe I'm being a little bit more lenient in this regard than some other people might be.
Yeah. PTK, if they came out, and again, we'll never know any of this stuff true inside stuff, right? We're never in the room talking, listening in on the Phil and Todd's conversations, right? So we're never going to know. But my greater point to this is I've heard people talk about the delay and we want a better game and let them polish it, blah, blah, blah. That's all great. What I'm talking about is Xbox moving the game because it doesn't fit within the roadmap. I'm talking about the game being done and then saying, it's June, Diablo's out. Man, maybe Forza is coming in July. We don't want to drop Starfield here, so we're going to push it to September, October, November. That would be a great spot.
If it's done, put it out.
Right. But that's part of the argument on the other side too. Is they can't release that in summertime. You don't want to do that. You just make it a holiday game. It's perfect, or a fall game. It's perfect for that. That to me is a bad delay. If your product is ready that you've been promising your consumers, and you've already had one delay and you delay it again because it's not the right time. To me, that's a bad delay. Again, I don't run billion or $1 trillion companies. Don't ever plan to be. This is probably why I never will, because I make decisions like this. But I don't care if it's Starfield. I don't care if it's Forza. I don't care about any of that. Like, this isn't just about Starfield. What I'm saying is they need to clear the deck completely of this backlog, this dam of games. Otherwise, every year going forward, because these games aren't stopping, folks. These games are continuing to be made. Every year, that's going to push more games that are ready out if Xbox continues to just say, well, now we got too many games. Now we can't drop them together. Now they start pushing them off, right? And now these games are sitting there ready, and when they're not in our hands, when we went a whole year without a first-party AAA game, right? So you got to clear the deck once. If you take 1 year and you clear the deck of everything that's ready, right? You clear the deck. Then going forward, your roadmap can straighten out. Then you can start really planning out how you want to launch the games. That's my point to this.
Or maybe you just pivot from the original idea. I mean, now you have more games ready, more games that are ready to pull out of the oven. Maybe you just change your release schedule a little bit. Maybe you tweak what the original release cadence was going to be. You know what I mean? Because you just have more, just like they did with the directs. We need more shows. We need to. We have more product. We need more shows. So just like they pivoted with the direct, maybe that's part of the plan this year. Maybe the second half. Maybe they've already thought of that. Like, you know what? We have a lot of stuff backed up. Maybe we will release this game and this game a little close to each other. That's not normally what we would do, but because we have the amount of games and everything seems to be ready, we feel like we need to. That still could happen too as well. So
it could, and that's what I'm asking them to do.
For sure.
It's just this is Xbox, and we've seen their history. So
I hate that. I hate.
You know
what
I'm saying?
Man. They don't. And we talked about this before on a previous show, and I'm gonna let you go next, Fuss. I want to make sure you get your point in here. That they don't have the cachet yet. They haven't built that up like Nintendo and PlayStation has, and that is the elephant in the room. That's the real issue if we're being honest with it. At the end of the day, they just don't get the leeway that the other two get because they've built that cachet.
Correct, 100%. Go Fuzzy, jump in here. Come on.
As far as the whole roadmap thing, I'm torn in the fact that I want the games to come out complete. I want the games to come out problem free. There are still day one patches and stuff, and I kind of hate it
Right.
But as long as the game works, I'm not going to complain too much. But it comes down to if you're going to say, hey, this is the date, or it's going to be within the next 6 months or 12 months, you better make sure you're meeting those milestones, or that you can meet those milestones. Like for me, as someone that was in management for web design and a website and the content on that site, I always had to figure out the schedule as far as when we're going to have all the uploads for the product, when we're going to have all the images, photoshopped and ready to go, all the text, make sure everything is spell checked and correct, and all of that stuff. So trying to forecast that stuff when you got the VP over your shoulder, like, hey, the catalog drops in a week or in 2 weeks, and here's the info, when you probably should have gotten the info a month or so ago. But in any event, it's all of these moving parts that if you're going to say, hey, it's going to be ready by launch day, you got to make sure it's ready by launch day. And I know sometimes that leads to crunch and whatnot, but for me, as a company, Microsoft needs to get in the habit of make sure when you do say something that either it's already done and you're kind of like under hyping it, but like over delivering kind of thing where, okay, if I tell you the game is going to be ready by spring, technically it's already ready. It's in the polishing phase and we're doing like the last minute stuff, like making sure, the stress test stuff. So that way between now and spring, most of the stuff is done. It's like already ready and waiting. It's on the shelf. I just hit the go button. It's good.
You call your shot, right?
Yeah.
You call.
I don't want to have where, how far are we? Well, we're about 90%, because you can get to the 90% and then find out that somebody forgot a caret in the code and it screws up everything.
It's bad. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I want them to get in the better habit of forecasting their workflow, their progress, and things like that. And it seems like they're getting there. Like that, the whole shadow drop was a perfect example of, keep your mouth shut, don't say nothing about it, and then bam, here you go. I'm not saying they have to do shadow drops all the time, but make sure when you're lining up these dates, like with Minecraft being April, if it's going to be good for April, that means it's already been stress tests. It's already been, the polishing and all that stuff. It's just now that team can wind down, and the most that they have to worry about would be the additional content that's coming out in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. And that should be the go plan moving forward. Like basically you go gold way before your release date. So that way you can already have what additional content you need ready to go. You can have all the ad stuff or web page stuff done as far as, all right, the people can download it, purchase it, whatever. All of that's good well in advance. And I think that's just where they need to get to. And they're getting there. Like I do have my concerns about Forza missing, the 6 month or within that 12 month that they originally said. It's not going to be the end of the world for me if it misses it. But it is going to make me look at them sideways every time they give me a date from that point forward, or, it's going to be, within this year.
Yeah.
Well, is it? So I'm a bit torn in that regard, but like still, I want them to get better at the forecast aspect. And when it comes to Starfield, I hope, and we kind of been buzzing about this behind the scenes where the 3/23 date, I think, in all honesty, that's probably the case. And I would say if it is, with it already being a done quantity and it's pretty much been play tested and stress test and, all that stuff, then yeah, it's good for March, but don't like boot it out of that March spot just because, well, there's another Xbox game that we could put there. But no, don't worry about it being a better holiday game. Like I'll agree with Pong on this. Like, don't move it to where it would better fit for either sales and whatnot. If it's done, it's done. And if it fits within the original target window, don't all of a sudden come up with a reason to push it out of that window. I mean, would I be surprised if somehow Hellblade slipped into that window? Sure, but then you're disorganized. Like if you're able to have that one ready, then why wasn't the other one ready? Like why is that team good at getting their stuff done on time versus the other team? Oh, you just moved it out the way for sales reasons. I get it. I can understand for sales reasons, but now it's a little late to do stuff like that. Like that should have been stuff that should have been forecasted 2 and 3 years out. Like, was nobody sitting at the table to figure out, oh, this would be better as a holiday game? Like when, I mean, I guess with the 11-11-22, that was kind of the target. But if you're going to move it and it's going to be an 11-11-23, don't put it in the 12-month. Or you should have said, well, it'll be ready by 11-11.
Yeah, we're getting a year delay.
I'm gonna push back just a little bit because I know we're talking about Xbox here, but this isn't. No, I'm gonna push just a little bit. I know we're talking about Xbox here. No, it's absolutely, and a lot of this though, some of this hasn't even happened yet. Let's make sure we're clear on that, right? Some of this is like us projecting. But only because obviously this is kind of what Xbox does. We're kind of used to this. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've already started the year off completely different. They've done that. Okay. They've done the direct. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now the Starfield stuff is tricky. The Forza stuff is tricky. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in that regard too, because I understand things get moved around. Now, why things get moved, we can argue about that all day, right? That's a whole different conversation that we can have. But at the end of the day, I do want to hold their feet to the fire, because when you set a date, that's an uncomfortable conversation when you don't hit that deadline, especially when you got consumers, putting away, time and, trying to get their finances correct to try and, line things up with these big AAA games coming out. I know you took time off for Starfield last year, all kind of stuff, Pong. So for you, it's an event. It's not just a game.
Oh,
and for a lot of people, it's an event as well too. So we got to take that into account. But I do want to acknowledge that they've already done something different this year. So maybe that continues. So that's what I'm hoping. And I know you guys see Matt in here too. I want to make sure we get the Matt.
Yeah, and that was also the ZeniMax side of things as well, which shows that they are still in charge of their ship. Sure, they got to get approval, but they can do things differently, and that's the point of why I believe they might do something different with Starfield. But anyways, glad somebody's feeling better. I'm glad somebody who didn't have a podcast last night decided he needed to talk. Come on in, man. What's going on?
In here, man.
I was listening to you guys on the way home. We were at some errands, and I was like, man, I gotta chime in right now. I don't want to gang up too much on PTK here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, we've
fine, bro.
I love this conversation.
I'm built for it tough, man. Pong does. He conditions me every week for that.
Yes, I do.
There's a group of us now that have now been dubbed the Marchers, right?
There's even not a group anymore.
We even have our own nickname now, the Marchers. So, so for me, I look at it this way, right? Nothing has changed as to what they told us.
Correct.
Before E3 or at E3 last.
As of right now.
As of right now. And all the speculation about it being pushed back is purely community created. There's nothing out there whatsoever to fuel that, except for, I think, people already putting the excuses out there so that way it's easier to tolerate when it happens, right? And I feel like people are out there being like, well, it's because they're gonna have so many games, and there's so many games coming. I think it makes sense to space them out and all these things. Polish it as much as possible. It needs to be perfect. All these things. But then I look back. Okay, so Microsoft had all this information about what games are releasing next year. When they did E3 last year, they knew what their pipeline was. They knew what all games they had in the first 6 months. They knew all this, yet they still chose to say within the next 12 months. So nothing has changed from that point to today. And unless there's actually something out there that actually points to the fact that it's not happening in the first half, then why would we speculate otherwise, except for the fact of just trying to pinpoint the date within the first half? Right, so that's what us Marchers have been doing, is trying to pinpoint the date within the first half, right? Because there's nothing out there to say otherwise. Now, could it happen? Sure, it's Xbox, right? And then we'll let them have it when they do that if it happens. But I'm not personally, I'm not going to go out there and set the excuses ahead of time, or or to say well, because of this or because of that. For me, screw that, because Xbox knew all this stuff before the last E3. There's all the reasons that have been put out there by the people that are saying September, October, August, whatever, are all things that they could have had the foresight of knowing about at that time.
Correct.
Right. either more polishing or space the games out or whatever.
Well,
So there's nothing out there that tells me that it's not right. And then you look at all the things that point to possibilities that it could be in the first half still. There's way more out there. There's way more stuff out there that points to that. So for me, I'm not gonna, add a lot of fuel to that delay conversation, because right now I feel like everything's full bore on track, and it also fits with Todd Howard's MO with what he would want to do, right? I feel like
that's what gets lost in translation too, man. A lot of people, and to your credit, still, you brought that up right at the beginning of the show. You did mention that Todd, that's something that he prefers to do. So I don't want to hijack your
and there. I feel like I feel like if a lot of people are also speculating, well, they need 4 months of marketing for Starfield, right? But Starfield is like the most highly anticipated game of this year right now for a lot of people,
but
right?
The casuals, Mav. The casuals.
The name is out there everywhere, right? Like when the Starfield deep dive happens, which is probably going to be sooner than later. There's going to be even more hype about it. Then you have, even if it hits late March or let's say April or whatever, even May, you still have like at least 6 weeks of heavy marketing time. That's a lot of time. Now people like, well, you need 4 months. The 4 months is a long time, dude.
Yeah,
like, you talk about commercials, like YouTube advertisements and all these different things, maybe some marketing stuff out there with brands and stuff like that. I feel like in order to have all that stuff in place, they would have had a date in mind ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
And therefore they would have probably picked a date ahead of time. I don't think the date's as fluid as people think. Usually you don't have that fluid of a date on a big release like this. I feel like you have a date that you have in mind so you can set all those marketing things up in advance. And I feel like Todd Howard and them had pinned that on 11/11 originally with those hopes. And when it pushed back, I bet they would have picked another date, because with a title like this, you have to have that plan. I don't feel like it's something like, well, we're just going to see when it comes out. You know what I mean? There's got to be so much planning with this that they're not just going to wait till the last minute to figure that stuff out. So, whether it's a Super Bowl commercial, then you got the deep dive, you have commercials and all this stuff. There's going to be plenty of hype around Starfield. And then also you add the fact that it's the biggest launch ever into Game Pass, day one and stuff like that. It's going to be massive. And, whether it's September, if that happens or whatever, then it is what it is. But, I still have utmost confidence it's going to be the first half of this year. And then the 323 thing, we had all been on that for a long time. Steel started it. He posted that video that's like 9 months old. Yeah. I don't remember where we all got it from. Maybe it originated with Steel, but, we all like that date because it fits with Todd Howard's MO too. He likes to pick fun dates. He likes to pick memorable dates. And that goes back to like Skyrim and stuff like that as well. Like he's has a knack for that stuff. So that's one of the reasons that you pick a fun date like that with Todd Howard. And the date's not just picked for the hell of it. It's because I feel like
it makes the most sense.
We understand Todd Howard. You know what I mean?
So just so I know, because I want to make sure we get everybody lined up. I need to know where everybody's at. Who's team first half, Starfield? Who's team second half? So just so we make it clear, chat, just so you guys know where we're at. Yeah, just to make sure. So I'm still. I guess you could start since you're our guest. Still, where are you at? You still team first half?
I'm the Oracle.
I'm going to die on the cross for my people.
You know where you at?
Of 3:23:23.
Okay. All right. So we reading from the book of Steel, 323, chat with verse 323. But anyway, so Pong, I assume you guys are all in the code. So you're probably okay. Same thing with Matt, team first. Okay, cool. Not a problem. Fuzz, where you at? You still first half on Starfield? Oh, I think he muted himself.
Fuzz, yeah.
Okay, no, he muted himself. He might be.
I
don't know what happened.
He said Mav's here. I'm out.
Oh man, so we don't know what Fuzz is. He'll be back.
Fuzz is on board with the March date as well.
With the March date as well. Okay, cool.
He leans the first half as well because he wants to see Microsoft
keep
their promise. So
there he is. Hold on, let me see. He'll probably, let me pull him in here. You there, Fuzz?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. So are you still
dropped me? So
are you still team first half Starfield?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Team first half on Starfield. team second half, unfortunately, for Forza.
Okay. So sacrifice, we had to sacrifice Forza. Casualty Forza, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right. No problem. So yeah, okay. So I just wanted to make sure we got that out the way so we know where everybody stands in that regard. So we're gonna get into the meat of the podcast, and we're gonna dive into this Xbox developer direct. Sorry,
we hijacked your show, PTK. We threw you
off.
No,
it's all good. No, it's all good, bro. It's all good. This is what happens, man. I love when people randomly jump in here, man.
This is what a cult does.
Yeah.
PTK, this is what a cult does. See, we all come out in force
to prove
our point.
I don't want to be indoctrinated. Yeah, I don't want to be
marchers.
You guys see random tweets from me, you guys know I was kidnapped. So you guys know it's not me. If all my tweets turn into stuff about Starfield, it's not me. I probably don't have my phone anymore at that point. So
but like blink twice if you
I know, right? but before we move on to the next time, I want to shout out everybody watching. We got a bunch of people in here, man. Shout out to everybody. I see Go, I see Ashtray, obviously Shane, Gabe, General Spartan, Ham. What's up, Ham? Chilling in the chat. Caitlin, obviously. Shout out to you, Controller Sports, Alvin. So many people. If I miss you, I do apologize, but I know the mods taking care of that. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. Hope you're enjoying the show. So I want to get you guys' opinion on this Xbox developer direct. So it was a phenomenal show, in my opinion. I just want to get the room's temperature on where we're at, 5-6 days later, 5 days later, however many days it is, 4 or 5. Where you guys are at after it's marinated. Now that it's marinated, what do you think about the show and what type of effect this is going to have on Xbox going forward? So we're going to start with our guest. Steele, where you at? We talked a little bit about this pregame. So where you at now that it's kind of marinated?
For me, again, I got to stick with my number of 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me personally, just because, again, like my brother Pong, I like to look at these shows within their own space for what it is. What did it give me and how did it present itself? And from start to finish, I was taken back because they introed it really well. The fact that they leaned more into the like a Windows meeting type thing and also using that chalk, that whiteboard type feel. I thought that was super dope. Again, you are Windows, so lean into what Microsoft truly is. And I feel like they did that with the intro. And then again, for a game that I don't care about like that, or overall for the most point, like in Minecraft, for overall, I'm the guy that jumps into my brother's world in Minecraft and just creates a tall statue of a Sonic or a Mario or something, and I'll carry on. But when I do that, it ends up being 3-4 hours I'm spending in that world. But other than that, I don't really have any true interest. And Minecraft Legends was doing something a little bit different. To me, I use the comparison of Riftbreaker. If anybody has not played Riftbreaker, I do believe it's only currently available in Game Pass PC. But if you have not played Riftbreaker, it's like a Diablo meets an RTS where you have the control of the character, but you still have to build up a base. You're on these worlds. You got to protect your resources and everything. And that's kind of the feel that the Minecraft Legends gave me, except this is more co-op focused. This is more PvP focused. Hey, you can play 4v4, but don't forget you also have this enemy to fight against. And it brings a lot of dope elements, right? I can sit there, build a base. PTK could go out and do some hunting, see where the enemy's at. Pong can build some towers up for us. And then I can have Mav, being sneaky and building a base right in front of the other team. Like, there's so many different options that's going to give us. So at least, if anything, I want to try to see how it plays day one. And I wasn't expecting for me to be that way when I saw it originally. The other thing too, my biggest, I'll try to go to kind of down the list, and if I forget, please correct me. My biggest surprise from the show was definitely Hi-Fi Rush. It was a game that literally came out of nowhere. It is extremely rare for a game to have no information out previously on it. It's shadow drop and literally take the world by storm.
It's crazy.
You have people on Steam. PC people are bougie. I don't care what they tell you. PC people like to tell you also that they don't want console games. Although now that they've got console games, oh man, how great has their experience been? But to see the great reviews that it's getting, I think it's still at, I believe, above 95, 98% positive reviews. That speaks leaps and bounds for by itself, because yeah, you could say, I've heard some people say this, because Xbox players are thirsty and it dropped in the Game Pass, that's why everybody's excited for it. And it's like, okay, then you go boot up the game, at least for me personally, because again, they said, hey, play it tonight hours after the show. I boot up that game for the first time that evening, bro, and I get to that first boss, that 9 Inch Nail starts bumping. I'm smiling ear to ear with excitement of how well the game was put together. No issues, no optimization problems. It just played like butter. It's a great example. We talked about this behind the scenes of a game coming out and being a great game. It's not going to be for everybody, I understand, but I thoroughly enjoyed that. Other thing with Turn 10 coming out with Forza Motorsport, it is unfortunate that we didn't get a date, although within some of the fonts and things, people are kind of deciphering and figuring out if there is going to be may have an internal 6/20.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Which would be really interesting. Again, marketing, there's a lot of things that go in the marketing. It'd be crazy to think that, it's just a font. Don't think about that. Guys, many people aren't familiar with it, but there's a lot of checks and balances that goes into something before they just show it. Hey, there's already people thinking about what are people going to think when they see this. And I don't know, there's just a lot of credence in that, but the game looked gorgeous from what I could tell on a stream. Go back, watch it 4K. My God. I'm ready for Motorsport to drop. Also here, Fuzzy probably gonna touch on this also, that they're gonna have over 500 cars. There's gonna be plenty of variety there, newer cars, add extra customization, and just the overall feel that they were getting from what I could tell. And again, y'all can say this is marketing and they need to make the game look good or whatever. But the number one thing that I took away from the dev direct that they did was that everybody who spoke on their games seemed passionate. And look, again, maybe they should, and they're reading scripts, and that's great, but I'm big on body language, and nobody seemed like they were sitting there stressed. They seemed like they wanted to give us more information, like they were just ready to possibly release their games as soon as possible. And it got me as a avid gamer.
I want to throw a curveball at that and kind of elaborate on that before you continue here, because Pong brought up a great point earlier, and I want to make sure I give you flowers on this one, Pong, because people are forgetting that too. Bethesda had a huge influence on this direct, right? Like this might have been their idea. Like we don't know, but this might have been like their idea. Like, look, I see you guys have been having problems. This is how we do things. What do you guys think about this idea? So how much do you lend to how Bethesda's influence? Because we talked about this when they made the purchase. What type of influence is Bethesda going to have on Xbox? A lot of people always look at it the other way around because Xbox is a bigger company. What type of influence is Bethesda going to have on Xbox? Do you lend any credence to that may be why this direct, the format it was in, the way they did it, why it felt organic and exciting? Do you give Bethesda a lot of credit for that?
I don't know if I'll give Bethesda a lot of credit for, but I do think that they had to have some form of hand in it, because you also got to remember that Bethesda's been working with Xbox for a long time. So they're not new to how Xbox has been approaching things, how they like to go about things. And there's a lot of friends, I'll say, that are probably just loving to work together at this point, being under the same roof. And it's easier to talk to people when they're in the same room versus, man, I got to go to such and such studio. I got to take a plane ride. I got all these other things going on. I don't know if me and Todd feels probably like, Todd, I can't meet with you this week. I got all this other stuff I got to take care of. Todd's sitting there like before the deal went through, man, I don't know if ZeniMax, Bethesda games, I'm going to be able to make games how I want to continue to make games.
They probably had them conversations too. I'm pretty sure they do.
Probably. But I will give them a huge assist in this one. It's a classic Jordan Pippen kind of situation where I think in this situation, Bethesda was definitely Pippen throwing that alley to Jordan, and he just dunks it in, bro. At least in my personal opinion. But again, Forza showed beautifully. I'm super excited about motorsport, seeing everything that they are bringing as far as changes. Again, when you tell me 3 games worth of changes, there's a reason they stated that, right? And you could say, oh, all the Forzas look the same, and like people are now. Forza Motorsport 4 apparently looks as good as what they just showed at this Dev Direct. Guys, I wear glasses, and maybe I need to go get them readjusted. I don't know. But I thought it was great. So they hit the nail on the head for me for that. Just missing a date there. But again, we'll see when that ends up happening. The biggest detractor for me, and I'm not going to say it's a detractor, but Redfall. So I'll dive a little bit into Redfall, and I will preface this by saying I'm not a Arcane fan, right? Nothing against Arcane, because again, I played the first Dishonored for a couple hours, and I was like, oh, this game's cool, but there may have been other games around that time that I was more heavily invested to. So I can also say, hey, I probably haven't gave them their fair shake. But I have to also acknowledge that they are a talented studio. Every time that their games have released, again, especially if you look at Deathloop that released more recently.
Slow burn, man. I said every time it's a slow burn with them. They don't get the credit right away for what they do.
But they did for Deathloop, right? Yeah. And a lot of people try to overlook that. It got high praise. It got nine. You
got a Game of the Year nomination.
It got nominated. So obviously that team is very talented. They know how to create their worlds. And again, from what I do know about Arcane, and I don't know if people were expecting this out of Redfall, they don't make hyper realistic games. And if that's what you were expecting out of Redfall, I don't know. I definitely got a couple bridges I could sell you real quick that I need to let go. But for me, the thing that because I'm kind of in and out about Redfall right now. I am grateful because it is coming into Game Pass. I don't have to make an investment other than time day one. But I'll start with this. Number one, I don't like the fact that they're locking progression into one person save. That bothers me. And the only reason that bothers me is because I'm the type of gamer who only plays a story one time. That's why I play on harder difficulties. That's why I like that challenge. I don't like going back.
You don't want to have to rerun through it solo to get the actual progress.
I don't care how powerful I am. I don't care. Like it's a time thing for me, right? Time is the biggest thing we're fighting against in gaming. And there's so many other games to play, especially when I'm more multiplayer focused. I will quickly put down games to go play PvP or whatever the case. But that's me. So that's one. Hopefully they have something to fix that. If not, hey, I'll just enjoy it with my guys and I'll just leave it at that. So it is what it is. The other thing too, and again, I brought up that ID Soft came in, Makers of Doom came in to also help Arcane with Redfall.
The guns.
Now, I'm not expecting Doom gameplay. I heard I've seen some people mention, oh, well, you want it to be like Doom and you want it to be fast. No, that's not what I'm saying. But when you play Doom, it doesn't matter how fast the game is. You could just stand there and shoot the gun and it feels impactful. It feels like it has weight. It feels like you're really manhandling this gun. Be fair, he's also a bigger dude, so I'll be fair in that. But the gameplay felt flat to me personally. There wasn't much punch there, and again, that can be something that you don't get until you actually get the game in your hands. Pong brought up a good point to me this morning that Arcane games typically don't display well when they try to show them off. I was
saying as well. It's a lot of times they don't translate for whatever reason for people's eyeballs until they get the game and they're sitting down playing it. It doesn't look like it's supposed to work that way until you play it.
Right. And then I also seen other people say, oh, well, the game's slow and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, I mean, guys, did you want them to run through it like Call of Duty so you don't see anything? You can't break down the video. You can't understand what these monsters look like in the world that you're in. That's literally what this presentation was for. And if there's one thing I have to say they nailed, it's the overall vibe of the game that you're going to be playing, of the world that you're going to be traveling in. And the way that they made the vampires feel, omniscient and really gave them a true presence is something that I do enjoy, because we've gotten too many zombie games, and the fact that they're even leaning into this and taking their own approach on how vampires act is something that's very unique to me. And again, I am a vampire fan, Lycans, werewolves, whatever you want to throw in there. I'm a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. I'm a Blade fan. And hopefully they end up like, at least on the cosmetic front, end up putting a lot of that in this game, just to pull more and more people in, because it is that style of game that would just it would ooze just passion, a coolness factor, if they did jump into that. But overall, I'm still kind of in and out about Redfall. It's I'll see when I play it day one. So
okay, all right. So cool, nothing wrong with that, Russell. We're gonna throw this over to you, Mav. Get your opinion. I know you've talked about this, a couple times, but man, like the show, once again, just to reiterate, I thought the show was amazing. I thought it's exactly what they needed. It was, short and sweet. The 44 minutes was perfect. The way they delivered the show, I felt, was perfect, with the devs being highlighted. Even the way the show was edited. We got to give credit to whoever edited the show as well, too, because the way they kind of put everything together flowed very well. They did a great job. The music was great. Everything seemingly fit perfectly. It didn't feel out of place. None of it was corny. It didn't feel contrived or forced, which is what I like, because sometimes the Xbox events, you get to a point and it feels like we're just trying to get through the time rather than actually we want to show what we have to, we want to, show you guys really what we have to show, these games or whatever the case may be. So where you at now after it's kind of marinated a couple days, man?
Yeah, so I'll keep it short so as not to derail your show. I've crashed it and everything.
It's all good,
brother. But yeah, I thought it was an excellent show. The format was amazing. I hope they keep doing it. I think they should do this at least 2 more times a year. Yeah. Maybe one to showcase more third-party stuff, and then another one for like later in the year first parties. I would say around E3 time, like a day after show, to focus on third-party stuff. So that way you can keep your primary focus of your
would
main
that
show.
Be just to elaborate on what they've showed at E3? You said,
yeah, like a lot of at E3 they do a lot of stuff, and sometimes stuff gets like overlooked because it gets overshadowed by some of the bigger announcements, and some of the third-party deals and the games that are like Game Pass day one can sometimes get lost in the shuffle. So if you have either like a B tier games or third-party games that are at the E3 showcase, have that like developer direct the next day to like have that deeper dive into some of those games, right? And let E3 shine with the big announcements, right? I think that'd be really cool. Later in the year, do another one just for the fall holiday games, right? But yeah, excellent show, produced very well. The games are all showed very well as well. I like what they showed at the games. Minecraft Legends, we learned what it is.
Yes.
More anticipated, more highly anticipated for me now. Forza Motorsport was the star of the show. They confirmed 4K 60 with ray tracing on track as well. Yeah. And that is like something that has not been done before yet this generation with racing games. Not that that's the end all be all. I mean, Forza Horizon 5 didn't have it, but it still looked glorious. However, achieving that is saying something because a lot of people said it couldn't be done, So I'm super happy that's going to be there. And I think Forza is going to submit itself as the pillar again of racing games with this release, making GT7 look like a quarter eater at Dave & Buster's. I really think this is gonna make GT7 look pretty bad. I like GT7, but I'm just keeping it real there.
Yeah.
And then Redfall is what I expected. Those games, like for me, are more about the environment and everything, which is that environment and setting was just screaming for me to jump into it, right? Like it's all about the mood and setting there, and like I hear what Steel says about the gunplay, and Arcane's always kind of had a weakness with that. I feel like they've been making like improvements on each release. Deathloop was a little bit better than the last games. I'm hoping this one's a little bit better there. But for me, like this is more about the environment and the setting and the feeling when you're going through the levels and the abilities and stuff like that. So I'm anticipating it. It's not like my most anticipated game, you know what I mean? But like it's definitely going to be something I'm going to enjoy the hell out of with my friends for sure. Awesome. And then what was the last game we got there? Well, Hi-Fi Rush. That was a huge surprise. Yeah. Huge surprise with Hi-Fi Rush to actually have that in your back pocket shows what a different situation Xbox is in. To have the entire year last year, like they had with it being crapped on all year because of no first party games, to have the confidence to still keep that in your back pocket for this year shows what they have in store for us, right? So I feel like that was a good sign of what's to come for Microsoft, because in the past, even if they were like in that situation that they were last year, they would be less confident about the next year. They would have had to market that game way ahead of time just to showcase, well, we got something, right? Even if it was at the detriment of the game. But here they just showed their confidence and just shadow dropping it, and it's already doing wonders out there, man. It's like huge on Steam. It's a blast to play, man. It is. I'm not into rhythm games, but it actually got me hooked.
Yeah.
Real quick, Mav, doesn't Hi-Fi Rush kind of give you more hope and anticipation for Redfall, just knowing that they were allowed to make this game kind of behind the scenes, and then boom, out of nowhere, just I don't know, the amount of passion the ooze a Hi-Fi Rush has into it. It does give me a little bit more
that whole. It gives me like a lot of more confidence in ZeniMax Bethesda, if anything.
Yeah,
right? Because like they've done nothing but do amazing things since that acquisition, right? Like Arcane, Tango GameWorks now.
Yeah. And we can't forget ESO, by the way. I don't want you to forget ESO.
Yeah, ESO, like the MMO stuff. Like here's the thing, right? I understand people say you can play it single player and all that stuff. It's not the same thing for me as playing like a Skyrim. It just doesn't feel the same. I might dive into it if I have like some buddies to play it with or whatever.
You should try it now, Mav. You should try it now. I think you'd have a different feeling now.
I might. Yeah, I might now. Like if we group together maybe one day this weekend or something like that, I'll give it a go. So I'm definitely willing to give it another shot. A lot of the MMOs make me feel like I have to have a full-time job playing the game in order to actually get anything done. I played Final Fantasy 11 online back in the day, and my God, and if I didn't have 7-8 hours straight, I literally could accomplish nothing. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of my fear with the MMOs, but it looks amazing. And there's so much content in it. And it shows that ZeniMax Bethesda is more than just Starfield. It's more than just, Arcane. It's more than just Tango GameWorks. They have so many different things out there that are successful and doing well. And this is going to keep growing. And I cannot, I'll tell you the other thing with ESO, everything they're doing there just gives me more hype and anticipation on what the next game they announce is, because they got one cooking that we don't know what it is. They've alluded to it several times. It's a new game, and I can't wait to see whatever that game is. Yeah. But overall, man, it's just an amazing show. And Xbox is kind of like the launch of the new era for them. More, especially the shadow dropping a game, right? All combined. This is like a new Xbox now. Bethesda leading the way, showing how it's done, I feel like. And hopefully Xbox first party really picks up on that and follows suit with big titles as well.
So and that's another thing I want to highlight. I know we get caught up sometimes as gamers and as fans of these companies and these pieces of plastic and these systems, and what have you. We get caught up in what's not going on and what's not happening. Let's talk about what's actually happening. And we got to give proper credit for Xbox, making some of these moves and some of these changes with this show, with this event. I know some people, are still on the fence with the game. That's understandable. If this didn't sell you, maybe you just won't like the game, at the end of the day. And that's fine too. My point is we got to give credit where credit is due. And another thing that I saw somebody bring up in chat, and I want to pop it on screen here a minute ago. Where is it at? Here it is. And shout out to SoulCon. He said they should let everyone's studio do stuff like Hi-Fi Rush, help spread the creativity and makes more competition inside Xbox instead of everyone having a style. That's one thing I want to give credit to Xbox
more
for.
Possible with Game Pass, right?
Exactly. I want to give credit to Xbox for allowing. They've always been this way, and they've always gotten a bunch of shit for it. They've always allowed their studios to just go work autonomously, be creative, do what we hired you to do, use that big, smart, intelligent brain and go make cool shit. That's what we
Pentiment.
want you to do.
Not always, but
Not
this newer
Xbox.
for
I'm
sure.
sorry. Let me
Yeah.
recant. Let me take that back because I know I'm gonna get killed in, let me
Rare
get killed in
love
the
making
chat.
all the Kinect
Yeah,
games.
right. I'm gonna get killed in the chat. Essentially since Phil Spencer has been on at the helm.
Yes, this Xbox
on board. This new Xbox. But yes, since he's been on board, this is pretty standard. But they've always gotten a lot of crap for it. But it pays off. You get this type of creativity that injects this. Because I mean, think about Hi-Fi Rush. It's literally a game about having fun. There's no super deep story. There's no super deep premise. It's just a well put together, incredibly fun game. It doesn't hit for everybody, but I played it and I had a smile on my face the entire time. And that hasn't happened in an extremely long time. A lot of these games feel like part-time jobs. They don't feel like games anymore. So I was really, really happy just sitting there playing, jumping around, doing whatever. So that type of experience, we don't get a whole lot. So I want to make sure I give Tango first credit for that was extremely brave to drop that game as well. Because you don't know how people were going to, you know what I mean? Doing a shadow drop, this is not normal for Xbox. Xbox generally gets a lot of crap. So you don't know how people were going to view this. And for them to hit the way they hit, I think it was amazing. Amazing. So let's throw this over to you, Pong. Make sure we get you in here, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall show, absolutely fantastic. You just said it, PTK, and I was going to say it here. Hats off to everybody who had a hand in this show, whether it was Bethesda ZeniMax with some influence, whether it was the new hires that they did last year that we heard about, that we knew they were making some changes, growing their marketing team. Whoever had a hand in the show, hats off. Again, bravo to everybody involved because you guys nailed it. You guys did exactly what we asked you to do. And now that we've actually seen it, I know we said the same thing when they announced this, but now that we've seen it, again, don't change the format. Do not do it. This was perfect. Again, I said it on multiple shows now. From the opening graphics with that chalkboard and the whiteboard,
I love
whatever
that,
you want
bro.
to call it.
I love
Listen,
that, man.
It sets the tone, right? We're getting a behind-the-scenes look from the people creating. And that sets the tone with those graphics. People, again, not everybody looks at the little stuff. I do, and I think that was fantastic. And then I said it this morning as well. And you said it, PTK, which I brought up, was the editing. That opening part where the production quality of watching people walk,
I felt warm watching that. I felt like this fuzzy feeling, bro. I know it's kind of corny, Chad. I know, but it was like
no. Yeah. It's welcoming, right? They were taking us inside the studios, and they showed that off, like how they had the whole opening scene where you saw the different studios, and you kind of had the camera walking with developers through the studio. That's beautiful work. That is perfect. That's again part of tone setting, and then you get into the show. And you get to see the people behind the scenes, the people that are creating the things that we love, that we, all, have so many different opinions on. But at the end of the day, there's humans behind there. We've talked about this. The devs have talked about how toxic the community can be. We've seen some of the DMs, some of the tweets that people have received, devs have received, death threats, all sorts of craziness. We've seen that. And I've always argued that part of the reason why is because this industry is so secretive, because people don't when you're secretive like that and you don't let anybody know who's working on this stuff, those people become inhuman, right? You take away their humanity at the end of the day. And when we get to see them on screen like this and they're genuine, sure, they're still reading from scripts, but the scripts are genuine, they're heartfelt, the words, the passion, the love, the confidence. You get to see that, and you see real humans that are making this stuff. And I think that came through in spades during this entire presentation. Like every single developer, and these people weren't all necessarily comfortable in front of the camera. Many of them probably had never been in front of a camera before outside of getting their picture taken. But they all delivered. So again, hats off. This was exactly what we're talking about. I want to see this format to expand, get rid of that stupid It at Xbox show with Twitch presentation and go to this format. Let the indie devs talk about their games and move to this type of format as well. We don't need the Twitch people involved for 4 hours, okay? Period. Point blank. It's unnecessary. This proves it. So again, overall, show fantastic. Exactly what we asked for. And this should be the format going forward. On top of the big shows, of course, too. I'm not saying do away from the big shows. But they made it their own. They didn't just copy State of Play. They didn't just copy Nintendo Directs. Xbox made it their own. I would have been happy had they just copied one of them. But that's not what they did. They went out and created something new. And it felt fresh. The pacing was on point. All of it. Hats off. Individual games, since we're all kind of covering these individual games now. Minecraft Legends, again, as an RTS strategy fan, of course I was semi-interested in it. But Minecraft, no, I don't like Minecraft. Never been into Minecraft. Don't like the art style. I played Minecraft Dungeons as an action RPG. I thought it was cool, different take on it. Just didn't hold my interest for an extended period, but I still enjoyed it. And I thought it was great that they did that, because Minecraft can open the doors for other people to try new games as well. People who maybe didn't think they were in action RPGs, but went and played Minecraft Dungeons. Maybe they went and tried Diablo, right? Maybe they went and tried maybe. Exactly, PTK. So that's the influence that a Minecraft game in a different genre can have. Minecraft Legends has that potential as an RTS strategy. And again, when I watched this, I was like, oh, okay. So you guys got some real deep strategy in this game. Okay, so you're actually bringing some real tower defense RTS elements to this game. It's not going to be surface level, because they were highlighting the PvP, which is a different level of RTS. When you go into PvP, it is a little different. But the fact that they highlighted it and it got me more interested in the game says a lot. And the people behind it, again, smiles on their faces, having a good time. They believe in what they're making. That shines through. That adds to my own excitement for the game. So now Minecraft Legends, I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to try it out. Whether or not it hits like an Age of Empires or a Halo Wars 2, I don't know, but we'll see when I get to that point. But I think it could be a great time. And we didn't know anything or a whole lot about this game. And showing off the PvP really did kind of emphasize a lot of what this game's going to be about. Really liked it. Then let's go to Forza Motorsport. This was the given for me in this whole showcase. Again, if there's one studio, you take a look at all Microsoft studios, and we can have different discussions about different. But if you want to pick one out where you had to bet a lot of money, your savings, right, your 401k on one studio to produce a quality game, even if it is just, and I'm doing that in quotation, just a racing game.
So you have Fuzz choking you through the monitor.
Yeah, no. Fuzz knows how I feel, but the other people out there who try to dismiss this stuff, just a racing game. If you had to pick one studio that's going to knock it out of the park every time, Turn 10 is going to be at the top of that list, everyone, if not just the one that you pick. And so this was already a given for me. You give them extra time. You have them redo the Forza Tech engine, which was already an amazing engine, and you give them the resources to come up and bring up Forza to a new level, they're going to get that done at the end of the day. Turn 10 is going to do it. And what they showed us, I want to see more of it. I would love to see more racing. I'm not going to hear any of this nonsense about, it was PC. We didn't actually see console play. Guess what, folks? They've done this every time they've showed off Forza. And guess what? By the time it gets to the console, very similar to the high settings.
Every time.
Yes,
every
time.
I not understand that, bro. I'm like,
didn't you see the mouse cursor?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I saw somebody show a zoomed in picture of a screenshot of YouTube saying, "Oh, you can see. Look at the arrow pointers on the bumper. Look right there at the corner." Like,
that's what they do, folks.
Man.
That's
like,
what they do, folks. Wizards don't have to prove to you anything once they've already shown you what they can do, right? So these guys and gals over First 10, they are masters at their craft, okay? Pure and simple, point blank. What you see on screen on a PC is going to be very, very similar to what we get on console. And when they come out and say on taped, but on camera, 4K 60 ray tracing on track, guarantee you can get 4K 60 ray tracing on track. Okay, that's just how this is all going to go down. Again, this is going to be a lot of feel, as both Fuzzy and Steel will attest to when you are in a racing game. Of course, you could see the visual difference. Of course, we could see the upgrades. But a lot of it is going to be under the hood, pun intended, right? It's going to be
that's where they shine at. Though.
That's where they shine at. So it's not going to be until I get my hands on the controller, start driving around that racetrack. The racetrack starts heating up. All of a sudden, I'm not getting as much horsepower. My acceleration is down a little bit because we got some of that hotness going on. That is what the stuff is going to, that's where it's going to really shine. And that's where you're going to see the big differences. Of course, it's going to be visually beautiful. Of course, the ray tracing looked amazing. The paint was unbelievable. Seeing that orange peel on the cars, ridiculous. Again, all of that was expected. Forza, again, you can put money in the bank on it. It's going to be a home run. This is a home run whenever it shows up. Again, that's the only downside is the non-date committal to this whole entire event for me was the Forza non-date thing, just in 2023. But outside of that, when this thing drops, it's going to be immaculate. So shout out to Forza and the team over there. And then let's go to Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush. It's 2023, folks. I can't remember the last big shadow drop. I can't. This used to be a thing. This used to be a thing.
Very old school.
Smaller games, sure. But a game like this from Tango Gameworks that is closer to AAA than people want to give it credit for. I think Steele said it this morning in Live Split Screen. This should probably be a full price game.
We're going to elaborate on that. So
I would blink. Yeah. So to have this thing come out of the blue, out of Tango Gameworks, where of course it's Shinji, of course they're known for horror with The Evil Within 1 and 2. That's the mainstay. But again, Shinji did an interview a while back after the acquisition, talking about at this point in his career, he wants to start mentoring developers. He wants to start bringing up the younger developers. You need people like that. And guess what? We got to see one of his students in John Johannes out of the blue. Having created this game since 2017, I think we talked about this.
2017,
yeah. 2017 was when they started it. A smaller project outside of the norm for Tango Gameworks, outside of the norm for most of the industry right now, and the direction that everybody's kind of going in, to show up with a highly polished, close to AAA, I will argue, type game that is completely out of the norm. Drop it. And then on top of it, say it's available today. That is unbelievable. And that is what you want. If you are Xbox, that's what you want if you're Tango, and that's what you want if you're gamers. This was the perfect surprise. Yes, we had heard about it, but that's the other unbelievable part. 5 years in the making, and only thing that leaked was a couple months ago, Jeff Grubb got the name and could tell us that it was a rhythm-based brawler. That's it. That doesn't happen nowadays, folks, especially in a leaky ship like Xbox. In the past, they've been very leaky. So they got this under the cover of night. They snuck this thing in. Got a lot of people out here convinced. Saw a lot of people, don't expect anything outside of the 4 games. They set the expectations right? Greeny did it again, set the expectations. But to put this in the middle of the show, not even as a one last thing, which, again, the argument can be made both sides of why you don't do that, but this worked perfect. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's awesome. And we'll talk about it more. But Hi-Fi Rush, stellar part of the show, obviously has stolen the internet over the past couple days. You can't say anything more than that. Then let's get to Redfall. Redfall I've been sold on. You guys all know that. Day one, Arcane fan. You put Arcane on it. I'm trying it. Hands down. I don't care what it is outside of a rhythm game. I don't care. I'm going to try it. It's Arcane. Redfall is showing better and better each time. This is an Arcane game, period, point blank. It may be an open world, which is different for them. It might be a co-op multiplayer, which is different for them. But you can see the elements of Arcane, and it was no different here. The thing that blew me away in this presentation was the amount of different environments within this one town. Like, I was expecting it to a certain degree because it's Arcane, and I knew they were going to put their spin on everything and they were going to come through in a creative way. But the amount of different environments in this one little town that we saw, the amount of colors, the amount of just from different insides, from walking into the different buildings and how different they all were, to the outside, walking down that path was completely different than being in another part of the city, right? All of that showed so incredibly well, especially, and folks, this is the key point. Listen to me. Arcane games don't show well. They never have. On top of that, Arcane games suffer some of the worst drawback from a 1080 presentation that I've ever seen in any game. You have to go watch Arcane's games in 4K 60 on the playback. That will show you the true beauty of this game. I watched it in 4K 60 after the show. I was amazed even more at the little details that popped out of the screen when you watch it that way. So again, hats off to Arcane. They've sold me. I hear Steele's not alone in his certain critiques of what he
Yeah,
saw
I've heard that too.
at all. There's a lot of people on
Yeah,
the
I've
fence
heard
with
that.
Redfall,
Mhm.
and I can hear you. I hear you all because I understand what that is. Again, I've played so many games. I played games like Doom that have all the punch in the world, and I played other games like arcane games where the gunplay isn't punchy, doesn't have it. It doesn't bother me. Again, if I need that style, I go to Call of Duty or Battlefield, military style shooters, then I expect it. But an arcane game, I don't come expecting it. But I did like what I saw of the gameplay. I like the customizations. I love that they showed off some of the looting. I love that they showed you going off the beaten path. Hey, you don't have to follow the main storyline. This is what it's going to be like when you go off the main path. I love that they showed that they still have the arcane stealth elements in this. If you want to stealth this game, you got the ability to stealth it. They showed that off even more. So all of that, fantastic. Hats off to Arcane. I'm sold. Can't wait till May 2nd, of course, unless Starfield drops in March or April. Then we'll see when I play Redfall. But Redfall is looking absolutely incredible. And then finally there was ESO. Again, I already said it in my intro. I re-downloaded ESO after saying I wasn't going to do it again unless they gave me the option to bring my 300 to 500 hour character from PlayStation over to Xbox. I was off the crack. I downloaded it after this and jumped back into it. Now they're giving you premium, part of premium. It's not the full premium, but it's part of the premium for free through the 31st. So I jumped back into it. And like I said on other shows, you want to know how good this developer direct was? You know it's good when people are actually talking positive about ESO. Sea of Thieves, Grounded, people, when those showed up at the E3 showcase, it was like, oh, here we go again, guys. Some more information on these old games that have been around. People actually were on Twitter going, ESO looks good. Oh, I didn't know ESO could be played as a single player game. Like, they did a phenomenal job. Hats off to ZeniMax Online. I love that studio. I love the people over there. Again, I'm an old ESO guy. I played it for that 300 to 500 hours 90% of the time as a single player. So I've got a lot of hours in a single player. That's why I've always spoken out on it. But this show, finally, they came out and said, listen, folks, you like single player Elder Scrolls experiences? Go jump into ESO. You can find that for thousands of hours here because we've got so many missions you won't even believe it. That's exactly what you can do. So ESO even showed up. So hats off to ZeniMax Online. Again, overall, I came out of the show live at an 8.5 after watching it all back. Some of it multiple times in 4K 60. Mm-hmm. I bumped that to a 9. So nice. Easy peasy. Yep.
I like the fact that we all did that because I feel like every single one of us that have talked as it marinated and we've rewatched the show a couple of times, I bumped the score up to a 9 as well.
Yep.
Mine was a little bit of a different reason. After playing Hi-Fi Rush, I bumped it up to a 9. So that's what did it for me. Yep. So and we'll elaborate on that game in a minute, but make sure we get Fuzz's take on this.
All right. So for me with the show, I'm still keeping it at 8.5. I'll start with my
you stubborn SOB. Come on.
Well, I'll start off with my least favorite or least interested, which is ESO, and it's nothing against the series. It's just I'm not an MMO player, but they kept it short. They did what we've asked for a long time because a lot of people will see a game that's already been out and it's like DLC. Perfect example like with Sea of Thieves, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to drag this on. They didn't drag it on at all. They kept it short, concise, got to the point, gave us enough info, enough to even have somebody like me that wouldn't normally look at it and be like, oh, that looks cool, but I'm still not going to play it. But it was good that they kept it concise and it kept the show moving. So pacing, that was a huge improvement over like previous shows and things that they've done in the past. With Minecraft, I'm not the biggest Minecraft player. Like I play Dungeons and it's one of those that's like play with friends, co-op. I'm all for it, but I'm probably not going to play a lot of it. But it is an interesting look at it because I didn't know what to expect as far as that game. I know Jez has made a few reports on like some of the things to expect from it, and they've hinted along the way before the developer directed what to expect, and it showed up a bit better than what I was expecting out of that game. So good. Once again, to the point, concise, didn't drag on, showed a lot of gameplay, showed it where it was more interesting than expected. So good kudos on them or to them on that. This one's going to be a hard flip between these next two because I'll put it this way. I'll start off with Hi-Fi Rush only because in a weird way, outside of Forza, it was a highlight for me in the sense that we, like you guys had said, we didn't have much info in this day and age out of Microsoft of all places, other than having a name and kind of a rough idea of the genre. Nothing. Just like, I don't even know if we had pictures. I know people have described what to expect the art style to possibly look like.
Yeah.
But nothing really out there. I mean, there's stuff floating out there for the, what is it, Horizon multiplayer thing, which a bit disappointed on that. But that's a different show. We're not going to talk about that today. But with Hi-Fi Rush, it surprised. It definitely, I think, especially after playing it, it delivered on something that I really wish Sunset Overdrive had the opportunity in the Xbox One generation. Like, there was already a lot of negativity for Xbox with the whole TV crap and whatnot, but that's kind of what, Sunset Overdrive was kind of what drove me or drew me into Xbox, along with, Forza Horizon 2. But this game has a lot of that same energy and well, I wouldn't necessarily say spirit, but more of the personality that isn't normal within the Xbox fold, a variety of games. So it was a pleasant surprise. It's fun to play. It's not punishing because, yeah, there's a few things where you do need to be on beat, but it's not going to withhold your progress as far as being able to get the game done. It's just a matter of you won't get the bigger combo or do as much damage, which the fact that they made it so it has that leniency is awesome. And just everything from the design, the cutscenes, the interactions, all of it is like this game. I really hope a lot of their, whether it's Bethesda Studios or other first party Xbox studios, or eventually, hopefully, Activision Studios, I hope they pay attention to how this game came about as far as it came out polished. You don't hear anything about bugs, no day one patch, none of that crap. It just works. It's like, when we talk about like the not blast processing, but what was it, the whole SSD and the quick resume and stuff like that. It just works. This game just works right out the bat. No issues as far as the normal launch game type of stuff. So they definitely kept that one under wraps in the best way possible, and it delivered on something that's fun, interesting, and unique for at least the Xbox platform. Like, this is a game that you would expect to see on like Nintendo or expect to see on PlayStation, and be like, the other side's always like pointing fingers. You can't have a game like this. I mean, you see them out here now, like, oh, it's a cartoon game. Yeah, but you want to play it. And it's just, that was a pleasant surprise and change of pace from Tango Gameworks, which I still hope that they continue to do Evil Within. And I'm making my way slowly but surely with Ghostwire Tokyo, and I can't wait till that one comes over to Game Pass as well. But that was a nice highlight for the whole show. So that definitely was like cream of the crop outside of my next two favorites here. I'll get to Redfall next. Every time I see it, it just makes me want to play it now. Like, considering Division is kind of letting me down slowly but surely, and Ubisoft doesn't seem
Ubisoft is letting you down, not Division. We got to make sure we point the finger.
No, but with Ubisoft, they have this looter shooter that they're just ignoring, trying to chase trends, and they have the perfect platform in which to chase some of those trends or expand on them or even start new ones. Like the whole thing with this Extraction deal, as far as for like looter shooters, why is not Frontline, what is it called? Heartland? Why is it taking so long? But that's not Xbox. So let's go back to Redfall. Redfall being the looter shooter it is, I'm liking it more and more every time I see it, as far as like the stealth mechanic, kind of like what Pong was saying, where you're able to, sneak around and I like having those types of options where you could either go quiet or go loud. Normally I like to go loud, but if I'm playing solo, I'll try, quiet as long as I can until I get spotted, and then we have to go loud. But I think the one thing I did want to see more of from this last showing is like, what does it look like when you have 4 of the same character, and each one has a different build. But outside of that, all the other things that they showed, even though they didn't go into great length as far as the skill tree or great length as far as the rarity or the different, levels of weapons and things like that, they showed us enough of a taste that we'll be theory crafting from day one on some of the things that we want to do as far as builds and the synergy as far as like when we do co-op and stuff like that. So love what I saw. Yes, you definitely have to watch that in 4K. I mean, the 1080/60 that you see with some of the streams or the 1080 stream setup isn't bad, but yeah, you got to see it in 4K, which leads me to the highlight for me for the show, and the only reason why there is a bit of a demerit, and we'll get into that, but Forza, considering that it's been 5 years, and I've been fiending for another motorsport ever since. Like I know I have somewhere around 1,700 hours into that game. And the funny part is, before the Xbox One X came out, I think I only had 3 races left to do all of the championships. Like I had already finished all the first wall of championships, and I was already 3 races away from completing the second wall of championships. So by the time the Xbox One X came about, like it was like, oh, the game looks great. It's 1080/60. It looks awesome. And then it comes to Xbox One X, and they did the upgrade, and it's 4K and 60 frames. And to me, people that are like, well, it's turn 10, they got the mouse cursor showing on the bumper. Shut the up. Seriously, if you're going to be that foolish about stuff, then you really shouldn't talk in public or on public social media. For the fact that if they were able to take the Jaguar Core Xbox One X and do 4K 60 with that game, do you not think a more powerful console is going to be able to do 4K 60 with ray tracing on track? Like, seriously, stop looking over at what Sony did, because they did the cross-gen game. And this was part of the reason why I was complaining about, like, when they were saying, oh, is this game going to be on Xbox One? And I'm like, if it's anything other than streaming, it better not. And that's the whole reason why. When you start with a foundation where your lowest common denominator is this next-gen console at that point, I mean, other than some of the PC specs and whatnot, but your main target is to reach, the maximum, frame rate as well as visuals on the console for those that bought the $500 console and have it still run flawlessly at, let's say 1440/60 or 1080/60 with some of the ray tracing showing on the Series S. You had to know that these guys were going to make it happen, especially if they were doing 4K 60 with the previous hardware, where we all know what the crap console with the Jaguar cores were like. So it's foolish to me to hear anybody say, oh, well, it was running on a PC. Every game you ever see is on PC. They say, oh, this is like what it would look like if it was on a PS5. It's still running on a PC. I guarantee you. There's no time that's running on the console that they're doing visual capture. And if you believe otherwise, you're fooling yourself. But that's a whole nother story. But
was in a bag today, man. You gotta be careful.
But once again, like, just looking, even before we get to the 4K, looking at the 4K stream after the fact, even in 1080, this thing is showing, gloriously on my computer screen while I'm seeing the stream. And even what I had it projected on the TV before it was in 4K, on my 4K OLED, it still looks awesome. The fact, like what Pong was saying, the orange peel, like, this is one of those things, being the car fanatic I am, I hate the fact that there's orange peel, but I understand, unless you're spending 20 grand on a paint job, you're going to have orange peel. Yes, $100,000 car has orange peel. Vipers have orange peels. GT, the Ford GTs have orange peel. Vets have orange peel. It's just the way mass-produced cars are. You don't want orange peel? Go buy an Aston Martin, go buy a Ferrari, and pay, for an $18,000 paint job. Well, it may not show that it costs you $18,000, but if you ever need to replace a panel on it, or you get a rock chip because you took it to the track, like the owner of the company, one of the companies I work for, had the car 2 days, took it on the track, got a rock chip. Yeah, you're really not, knowing what a Ferrari is until you get that first rock chip. Yeah, that costs them over 18 grand to get that thing fixed, as far as just the rock chip in the bumper.
Yep.
But that's nor here nor there. Forza, the fact that they went through building the ground, and I know a lot of people hate hearing built from the ground up. the fact that they're going to a more detail centric engine where you're going to have more points of contact as far as a tire patch to the track, you're having a lot more layering and aspects that are taken into account, whether it be temperature wise, angle, momentum, the basically the lean of the car going into the turn is now going to be more in line with what you would really have with a working suspension on a car on a track. The fact that they're upgrading all of that stuff and upgrading the cars and upgrading the layers on the cars, so the tire rubber or the brake dust and all that stuff builds up in a kind of a natural way, is awesome. And that's, I guess, the pro and con, where the game is going to look phenomenal, but it is going to take them longer to reach the goal line as far as getting this thing released, which is part of the reason why there's that little demerit where I don't think this is going to be in the first half. I would love for it to be, but if I have a choice between having it in the first half and having it where some stuff is broken or not complete, or having it where it's, their normal standard of release, like with Motorsport 7 and Motorsport 6, I'd rather have them, have that extra time, get this thing complete. Yeah, I'm going to probably cry a bit like a baby on Twitter. Oh, they didn't meet this, the next 12 months, but I'm going to be anxiously waiting to hit that download button the minute that thing is available. But Forza definitely showed up. I can't stress this enough. As much as I've played GT7, I know that this is going to trump it. The only thing that GT7 and Polyphony can really do to, highlight that game or make it to the next level, they need to release the PC port. They need to have it where they do an update for the PS5 that incorporates some of the stuff for the PC port. And then maybe they'll be on par. Sure, you could take much better still pictures in, GT7 as far as those pseudo background backdrops and stuff, but it would be awesome if you could drive through those actually in real time, or if they had the ray tracing on track in real time. They could probably do it with the PS5. They just can't do it with the PS4 or a game built specifically for the PS4 and PS5. They need to do that PC port, uplift the PS5 version so it can at least be somewhat of a competitor. But until then, next gen, Forza is it. It's the return of the king. It is what it is. If you don't believe me, just wait. But that's it. I've probably rambled enough.
What Fuzzy said.
Yeah, look,
let's
all
go.
y'all racing fans is put on notice. Like, come on now, this is where you need to. This is who you need to talk to when you want to talk racing games and all that Forza stuff. Like, you need to be hollering at Fuzz. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Fuzz. There's a lot of stuff to take away from there too. A lot of stuff that they haven't showed yet. Obviously, if this game is pushed out further, it makes sense as to why we didn't get as much as we thought maybe we would have.
Yeah.
But once again, we'll get those details when they are ready to provide them. I don't ever doubt whatever Turn 10 decides to do. Whatever decision they make for the game, they get that cushion for me personally. Everybody may not give them that cushion, but I feel like they've earned that cushion. So I agree with you, Fuzz, on that point. And I want to, before we wrap up the show here in about 25, 30 minutes or so, I want to make sure I wanted to highlight Hi-Fi Rush one more time. Because I think this is a very unique situation. I don't know when and if this will happen again. And this is not just an Xbox thing. This doesn't happen in gaming that often, as you guys think. And you mentioned this too, Pong, about how rare shadow drops actually are. It's even more rare for them to have the type of impact that Hi-Fi Rush had. That's even more rare.
Correct. We've seen smaller indie games shadow drop and stuff that just came out of the blue, but they were usually really, really small games. Like a game like this kind of impact, no, you don't see it very often.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. So I'm gonna actually start with you on this one, Matt. We'll start kind of out of order here. But just your experience. We talked about the game and what it did at the show and how surprising it was. Now that you've got to sit down and play with it, what is your experience like? And I know you mentioned that this gets you excited about what else, like other stuff that Xbox is possibly doing. But what has this game done for you? Obviously you've been enjoying it, but like, how do you feel about this type of game? And, maybe seeing this game grow going forward for Xbox into something that maybe originally it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is a really good game. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, cool. They have something, shadow drop. Wow. I was like, it's probably not going to be for me though. Right. But then the glory of Game Pass, you don't have to pay for it. You get to try it. And it just hooked me. Like the gameplay was solid. I saw in our DMs Steel and a couple other people just been like, wow, this is really good. I was like, okay, I trust Steel's opinion on stuff a
Yeah, for
lot,
sure.
right? So,
Sure.
and I dove in. I'm like, oh my god, this has got its hooks. And I streamed like the first 2 boss fights,
Yeah.
and I was bobbing my head and like going with the music, and I was like really feeling it, man. It was the gameplay was so good, and the gameplay was so varied as well. They like mix it up a lot, so it doesn't ever get stale. Like there's 2D elements, occasionally mixed in there, and the rhythm stuff always keeps you on your toes, right? Trying to hit that beat for the combos, and you can mix and match the way you're doing your combos, and it's really fun. I always like crave get into that next battle stage area where you have like waves of enemies because I want to see how good I can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like a rush when you get into that part.
Then you got the score up in a corner changing as you do more combos.
Like
you're always kind of fighting against that.
Devil May Cry style a little bit. You know what I mean? It's they got you there, and I'm actually really pleasantly surprised and loving it. What it does for me more than anything about just this IP is make me like understand what they're doing more, like because we've seen it from Obsidian kicking off secondary projects, right? We've seen it from other studios, right? They even let Ninja Theory, they had that Bleeding Edge game where it didn't hit, but they let them finish it after the acquisition and stuff. They have a lot of different little things they can do, and this is one of those games. It's like, would it have existed? Would it have come to fruition? Would they have launched it? Would it have gotten the time it needed? All those kind of situations without Xbox, without Game Pass. And regardless of what they do with this IP, I know that I'm going to be excited for whatever John Johannes makes next.
Good
right?
point.
Because he is now on our radar, right? Like he's that's a name we're going to remember now because they put him in the limelight, right? They put him at the focal point, and we can thank Shinji Mikami for that as well.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So them putting him on the forefront, saying this is his game. Shinji said that, this is.
He even let him. He's like, this is your game. Announce it. Like let the people know what
And you get to see, like, I've always loved when studios are creatively led. I said that numerous times, but you can tell when a studio's led more by the business decisions behind everything, and then less about the creative vision behind
Ubisoft,
right? And when you have true creators like a Todd Howard, like a Shinji Mikami, or like now John Johannes is a part of that. You got these guys from Obsidian, Mr. Farquaad. I don't know how to say his name. It's Fear Gets something. You got all these different guys, and In Exile's the same way. That are creatively led. Tim Schafer also. I mean, these are just these are just names that are the head of studios now that lead with vision of creativity, right? And it's less about how to monetize the crap out of this to get the most bang for your buck, as here's what I want to make, and let's see how we can make this the best thing possible. And knowing that that's the direction now, because there's less worry about return on investment per game. It's about subscriptions into a service.
Engagement.
It's about engagement. That's the metric now, right? So variety is a premium, right? Variety is a premium. Variety and different experiences, also quality. You can't just throw in a bunch of crap in there and expect people to want to subscribe to it, right? So the things that people were worried about with something like Game Pass is actually flipped around, and like we've been saying from the get-go, is actually its biggest strength.
Ain't that something, man? Right? Ain't that ironic, huh?
It is, because it frees up these creators to be what they are, creators, right? And we're seeing the struggles of studios in the past that have been ran more with the opposite mindsets, and those studios are having trouble. And you're seeing these games out there like Elden Ring, who also is led by creatives, right? And stuff like that come out and just smash the gaming world and take the world by storm. I think that this is the new direction that these companies are understanding this now. I think Xbox is really understanding it. And I'm more excited about not necessarily Hi-Fi Rush. What does that mean for the future of the Hi-Fi Rush franchise?
Yeah.
I'm more excited about what does something like a Hi-Fi Rush's success mean for the future of Xbox's decisions with the games that they create.
Okay,
Bottom line.
Mav out here preaching. That was a script. That wasn't even a statement. You put a quote unquote on that. Bunny ears all the way for sure. So no, I agree with you. And once again, I wanted to highlight this because I think it's extremely important. And sometimes we get so caught up in all the other stuff, we forget to truly stop and like really smell the roses. This is one of them stop and smell the roses from a gamer standpoint. As a gamer, you should be excited when this type of stuff happens. And just to kind of throw an analogy out there, not an analogy, but a situation. Asante asked me about like the Last of Us TV show as well, and he asked me if I was excited about that, and I said obviously yes, because it's good for gaming in general. We should celebrate.
Exactly.
We don't, as gamers, we don't celebrate our W's together enough.
Nope.
Some of these W's are for all of us. It's not just for just because it's on a particular platform. The Last of Us being as good as it is as a TV show is great for everybody. Great for the next video game that wants to turn into a TV show. They might look at it differently now, and that's what gets me excited about things like Hi-Fi Rush. They give these people, Xbox, and then you got the head of Tango allowing people to be creative, allowing people to, flesh out their visions and say, okay, we'll bring this idea, we'll build it, and it's a quality game. And it has so many it's a very Nintendo-like feeling when I play. That's the only thing I can compare it to, Mav. It's like a Nintendo experience. I don't know if that makes any sense from Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, because it's instantly replayable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got that hook. It feels good. That's the main thing with the comparison to the Nintendo thing is the game just feels really good. It doesn't matter if it looks like a realistic walking simulator, right? This game is about what gaming is always about. It was about jumping in, having fun, and not having to worry about all these problems with the game. It's just about let the game take you in. You know what I mean? Just see where it takes you, and this game takes you on a journey, right? So I 100% think they hit the nail on the head with it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's throw this over to you, Steele, and get your opinion. I mean, we've talked about this at length, but just to kind of put a bow on it, after playing it and beating it, some of us have beaten it, some of us have not. But just where do you think about just the impact and why this was important for Xbox, as well as just the gaming in general?
I'll lead it with something that Ham said in chat. He said, this is huge because all the past criticism about Xbox not being able to support their own developers conversation is dying. And I think that's definitely a huge strong point about this entire thing is that this, at least to me, displays that allowing devs to create whatever their vision is and allowing them to have the freedom, or giving them the freedom, I should say more so, and the space to bring these worlds to life is always going to be a blessing for us in the long run, right? There's not enough content that we're getting nowadays that is truly trying to stick to, hey, what does it mean to truly be a game? How do we pull people in? What's enjoyable? How do we make something that's going to be impactful and get the people talking? And Hi-Fi Rush, whether it's a game for you or not, again, you cannot tell me by the time you get to that first boss and you beat the first boss that there is not something magical about that game. There's just something about it. The fact that you don't have to be a rhythm-based fan, but as somebody who I am a combat mechanics fan, and the combat mechanics in this game have so much more depth than I was even anticipating. Oh, there's all this music and I got to hit to the beat. And then Fuzzy Man mentioned it earlier. It's not as critical as even the game probably tries to make it seem like it is. It's actually, there's a lot of accessibility options in there. The game performs really well. And I think that gets back to the root of what we've been looking for. And I think that's the most important piece of the conversation is that we got a game that literally has no issues that we are aware of. I'm about 10 hours into the game and I cannot think of any issues that I've had with it.
Yeah, I haven't had any either. Yeah.
No patch day one, if there was one, it went under the radar. And just the way that it was announced with the confidence and the breadth that it was done, it just speaks volumes to what the potential of this year has, right? Because 2023, with all the pushback we've gotten from 2022 into 23, there's just so many things that are planning to line up. And this is coming, whether you guys like it or not, this is first party. Like,
yeah, hey, they got to swallow that pill. Get over it. It's going to be first party going forward. Sorry to update you guys. So,
1,000% a fact. So it gets me excited for what else the potential may be. Again, I think it puts everything up at the next level and just proves the point that I personally think that Xbox is moving in the right direction with giving people that the space to just be themselves. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they've always leaned into that, and that's why I've always want to highlight that, because that's also part of it, you know. So yeah, great breakdown, bro. I agree as well. There's definitely something magical about the game that I didn't anticipate, man. It feels like I'm playing a Saturday morning cartoon. You know, it's nostalgic but new. It's out of the ordinary. It's a breath of fresh air. It's probably the best quote that I've seen. You know, people put on Twitter is like a breath of fresh. It's like a palate cleanser, and it completely cleanses your palate.
The other crazy thing about this is that, fortunately, unfortunately, I guess it depends on how you look at it. This wouldn't have been a game that I would have bought. Yeah, I would have saw it like, oh, rhythm based. I would have saw some of the combat and been like, yeah, that sounds cool. But then you dive into it, you're like, yo, this just oozes like a coolness factor and quality. So.
Yeah, I agree. So we're gonna throw this over to you, Paul, and get your opinion. I don't know how you feel about the game, but ultimately the impact of the game, how it was presented. I know we've kind of talked about that, and that's, I think, outside of the game being great itself, you know, you might feel a certain way about it, but I think what the game stands for, what it means for Xbox, what it represents, the way they showed it, I think that's just as important as what the actual game is. So where you at on that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So I downloaded the game, of course. It's a Game Pass. Yeah. I'm not a rhythm player. I'm not a platformer, so that's 2 strikes against the game. I downloaded the game because it's in Game Pass, and I could try it out. Went through the first level, beat the boss, and I installed the game. But that's not saying anything against the game whatsoever. Again, I'm not one of those people who just has a game that's not for him, trash it or say it's bad or say it's terrible. No, I look at the game as with a keen eye, and say, okay, what does this game have going for it? This game's got everything going for it. Again, just because it's not for me doesn't mean a damn thing. I'm just not going to put the time into it to get good. I was playing on easy, and again, like I explained to Steele this morning, I don't do easy in most games, and again, I have nothing against people who do. Absolutely not. You play the game how you want to play. I normally play on normal. Some games I'll bump up to hard, but I don't play games on easy. But I knew going in that I got to play this on easy. So I played it on easy, and I was still getting B ratings overall during the battles. And to me, that's a personal thing. I'm still competitive with myself versus the AI. So when I start seeing those B ratings on an easy level, it still digs a little bit into me. So I was like, okay, all right. So, but the game overall, again, brand new IP. Sure, it started before Microsoft made the acquisition. I don't care. It's owned by Microsoft. Okay? It's owned by Microsoft, folks. It's owned by Microsoft. They gave this team extra time. I can guarantee it. With the pandemic hitting, I'm sure that they lost time during the pandemic. Microsoft continued it up forward. Obviously, they gave them resources. I wouldn't doubt, we haven't heard John Johannes come out and speak about it, but I wouldn't doubt that the influx of resources helped them polish this game and finish it and get it out in the state that it is, right? All of it. This game from top to bottom, as everybody's already said, it is one of the most polished games you will ever find. The Special Nick said this on Boom Show on prime time. The art style is timeless. That's why we still talk about Jet Set Radio to this day. This game will be one of those games that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people with fond memories of it will be able to go back and play it thanks to backwards compatibility, and they will look at it fondly and still say, hey, this still holds up to this day. You can't buy enough of those IP, okay? That's what starts creating an identity. You now have 2 characters in Chai and 808, which are extremely marketable, extremely marketable. And also beyond, Peppermint, even the side characters, Peppermint, she's extremely marketable. You now have a new franchise that could become something much bigger than it currently is. Again, we don't know what John Johannes want to do. And I do want to take this time real quick to also shout out Masaki Yamada.
Oh, for sure.
Masaki Yamada, for anybody who doesn't know, was the lead game designer on this. Now, John Johannes is getting the FaceTime, which again, all credit goes to Shinji for putting him up there. Now, like Mav said, now we've got another developer whose name and face we know, and we're going to be looking forward to his next game. But Masaki Yamada, lead game designer, he worked on Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, Okami, Bayonetta, Vanquish, and The Evil Within. You want to know why this game is playing so damn well? Why Steel can look at this and go, man, the combat, this is great. Because of dudes like that behind the scenes. That kind of experience, man, you can't find, and you can see the influence from a bunch of those games in here, right? So now they've got a brand new IP. They've got marketable characters. They could turn this into a franchise. They could turn this into something big. Again, people have been throwing out ideas on Twitter. And I talked about this with Steel a little bit this morning too. Somebody threw out, hey, love to see a hip hop version of this as well. Right? Bringing some yeah, man. Why not? You can take this in so many directions. This world is full of opportunity. The animation is off the charts. The voice acting, the writing.
Bro.
It all works, man. So it all works. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but that was one thing I want to highlight before I forget. Because the game, on the surface of it, you get in the game, you first see it, your brain wants to tell you this is going to be corny.
Yeah. 1,000%.
That's the first thing I thought of before Ty even said a single word. I'm like, get prepared for this antagonist to say some corny stuff. I'm probably not going to like the dialogue very much. Hopefully the gameplay is really good and we'll be able to get through it. I was pleasantly surprised. The voice acting, the writing, everything was about as good as you could possibly expect, and everything blended seamlessly. It didn't feel contrived. It didn't feel forced. Chai is lovable. The characters, even the enemies are lovable.
Absolutely.
They're unique. Each one has its own personality. You see a lot of pop references throughout that game too. It takes a lot of cues from a lot of other stuff. Even Evil Within, there's even a couple characters in game you can find.
Yeah, it makes fun of itself, like
bro. And the one thing that I want to make sure I point out too, and we'll get back to on this point, is that I've never seen a game be able to seamlessly go from 2D to 3D, back to 2D, back to gameplay, back to 3D, and you not even be able to tell that you're switching through all of these. It's about as seamless of a gameplay experience as I've had in any game.
Absolutely, 100%. Again, to the point about the characters, I saw fan art within 24 hours.
Oh man,
Twitter.
crazy!
Listen, that doesn't happen with every game. Fan art's a big deal out here. People dismiss
really
all this stuff. It's a big deal. When you get people creating fan art, it means the game's hit a certain way to somebody, right? So for me, that also speaks a lot. But again, this is a perfect example, as everybody's already said, of letting creators create games and what you can get out of it. We saw this with Obsidian when they made Grounded, and then when they made Pentiment. This is exactly why we want these creators to have this freedom, to be able to go out here and do this exact thing. And sometimes it's not everyone's going to hit. Not everyone's going to be perfect, right? But you can wind up with some surprises. And Hi-Fi Rush is a surprise. Trending on Twitter for over 12 hours. Hi-Fi Rush circumvented the entire system that is set up in place to not allow games to succeed, to have them be overanalyzed, to have narratives build long before they even hit our controllers even hit our hands, and then have the reviewers have a chance to say something stupid, give it a low score, and then have everybody start picking it apart. It circumvented all that by staying secret, by showing up, by shadow dropping on everybody. And like, blam, here it is. And guess who got to judge it first? The gamers. The gamers that actually want to play the game got to judge it first, and overwhelmingly have said, this game is spectacular. And that's what gaming used to be about. We didn't sit around all the time waiting for magazines to come out with reviews from games 2 months ago, right? Sometimes we did, but we didn't normally did that. Normally, if a new game came out, the cover art was cool, people were talking about, we went and bought that game and judged it for ourselves. Now we get the exact opposite happening with games, and we've seen the hate trains build. We've seen the narratives that are completely false build long before the game even shows up. This one, nah. None of that. So again, this goes and shows Xbox that this kind of stuff can be done. Not for every game. I'm not going to sit here and say Starfield shadow dropping. I'm not, even though I'm a marcher, I'm not in the, just like every good cult, we have our extremists, and we got extremists saying it's going to shadow drop. I'm not talking about that. But again, it shows Xbox that marketing in 2023 can be done in different ways, that the power of social media can be used to your benefit in a lot of ways if you do it right. And Tango Gameworks, ZeniMax, Bethesda, everybody that had a hand in doing it this way, and Xbox for allowing it, they nailed it. On top of nailing the game, the most important part, you made a great game filled with talent, creativity, beautiful art that you would hang on your wall, and you slapped it down in everybody's lap and said, go enjoy, and everybody's enjoying it. Shocking, I know, but that's exactly what happened with this one. Shout out to Hi-Fi Rush. Shout out to everybody. John Johannes, the whole entire team. Again, this is what it's all about, as everybody's already said. We need these types of games. The variety, the diversity that Xbox now has with all these studios. Again, Tango Gameworks was one of those dismissed studios when the ZeniMax deal went down. Oh, that's cute. Tango Gameworks, Shinji, he did Resident Evil, but Evil Within didn't really hit. Whatever. So they got a Japanese studio. Guess what? They're now back on the map again. And I can't wait to see what Shinji comes out with himself now that Xbox is going to be fronting the money and giving him the resources and giving him the time. So now I'm excited for Tango Gameworks. A lot of people are, and I think that this is a big up-and-coming studio with a lot of potential, and Xbox scored a big hit with this one.
Absolutely. 100% agree. I cannot say anything more about what they were able to achieve. And listen, shout out, and like you said, shout out to everybody at Tango. It takes a big set of balls to drop a game like this in this type of game, in this type of climate. Everything gets fine-tooth comb, right?
Hey, PTK, it's only you only like the game because you're thirsty for games. That's all.
Oh, my bad. I forgot. I'm just thirsty. I ain't played nothing all last.
That's what I heard people say.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what people said.
My bad. I got 0 gamer score in 2022. 0. So, but let me throw this over to you, Fuzz, before we wrap this up, man. Just give your general opinion on just the impact of Hi-Fi Rush and kind of how you feeling after playing the game.
I think it's the start of a good thing as far as like you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as when they allow the devs to do the creative stuff that they want to do. And sure, Bleeding Edge didn't quite hit, but there was so much detail and lore within the characters that they use for that I keep on saying every time something comes up about like Killer Instinct, to like repurpose those characters into a Killer Instinct, or at least a handful of them, especially the ninja guy and the guy with the guitar. Those two definitely need to live on in some sort of fighting game, because I think that would be awesome. And now that when you have is it Chai? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Chai.
Mm-hmm. Have him in a Killer Instinct with his guitar and with 808. So it's
or make a brawler, make a Smash Brothers clone.
Exactly.
Now, right?
Like there's now another game or another. I won't call it a pillar just yet, but there's another franchise that they can expand upon in later or in future releases and things. So the whole Shadow Drop was awesome. The fact that they were able to keep things as tight as they did, we got the name, we got a little bit of an idea of what it was, but no imagery, no leaked video or any of that stuff. That goes to show you that Xbox is, if anything, I would say they're taking things a lot more serious. They're definitely trying to, fix some of the problems of the past as far as when it comes to their development cycles and internal stuff. But the game in itself, I want to just say that it's a pleasant surprise in the fact that we didn't get this type of game last gen. Well, we kind of did with like I said before, with Sunset Overdrive, but we all know that negative media or gaming media engine kind of killed that game for the most part. Any real momentum that it would have had was killed before it was even released. And the fact that this was able to beat all of that, and you get a raw response as far as from the people that are interested in playing it, and even those that may not have been interested in playing it but are like going to try their best to download it or re-sign up for Game Pass for $1, like that's really hurting somebody's feelings. Like, come on, seriously. But it to me, it was just one of those things where you got to see the excitement of people having fun with the game. You get to see them posting gameplay and seeing the different versions of different combos, or having, like your counterpart help, like some of the ones that you can unlock later on as far as throughout the match. So there's just so many positive things about this game. I hope this is a sign of things to come, as far as where more dev teams will be able to have their passion project, or maybe a secret project, or a smaller, IP that kind of gets mixed in between some of their bigger releases, and to have that type of freedom, or variety, is the main thing that will help draw more people to the platform. But as far as for me, I definitely enjoy the game. A hip hop version, oh my god, that would be so wanted. They could just do DLCs for different, music packs and boards and stuff like that for future. This game has just unlimited potential, and I'm so glad that they were able to keep this under wraps until that day, and the fact that people are enjoying it now, and I got to get back to it some point this weekend. It's awesome to see. I hope there's more of this to come, along with the bigger titles that we're already aware of. And it just makes you wonder, what else are some of these other teams working on in the background? Like, we still haven't seen anything or heard anything really from Compulsion. We still haven't really heard or seen anything from inXile as far as for their next game. We keep hearing that other teams within, the fold have seen stuff, but we want to see it. But, if it winds up being a shadow drop situation, awesome. But yeah, this game, it knocked it out of the park, and I hope they do more things like this, and I hope that they continue this franchise, from here on out. It's awesome.
Awesome. And so I mean, that just goes to show you the positivity just on this panel alone, and the positivity I've seen in the community. You don't see that often for this type of game. You know what I mean? Like, it really caught people by storm. It really slapped the people, across the face, left field, way left field. We didn't know what this was. Obviously, like Pong mentioned, some people were already in the know about the name and, the idea of what the game's supposed to be. But for them to come out and actually pull this off and execute it to the level that they did, it was astounding. So I think we're going to wrap the show up on that note. It has been a phenomenal show. We actually had extra guests tonight. Didn't know we were going to have one, but always glad to have Mav around. But let me go ahead and just go around the panel here. I want to shout out to the chat. You guys have been fucking amazing tonight.
Hey.
I saw a lot of new names in here, a lot of new faces. Doesn't matter where you come from. I hope you enjoyed your time here and will come back and hang out with us every single week here at the Shop Podcast every night. Like I always want to tell you guys, my DMs are open. I'm always taking, constructive criticism and ideas and, suggestions on how to make the show better. 2023 is a big year for the Shop Podcast, so help us reach our goals, things like that. Subscribe, like, share everything that we do. I greatly appreciate you guys' interaction, you guys' love and support. But let me go ahead and get to my guest here, man. But shout out to you, Steel. It was a phenomenal show, bro. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us, bro. It's always great when you get some time to come on. I know you had your warm up earlier. I would say the 4.5 hour warm up.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, man. Let all the people know where they can find you at, brother. And thank you for coming on.
Hey, look, again, anytime I can step into the kingdom of Blam, I'm always excited to come in, especially when I got some free time. So it's always a pleasure, and I'm always forever grateful that when you invite me to be on. With that being said, you can find me, Steel Rain, anywhere that has a search bar. Make it real easy. Steel Rain, the T is a 7. Shonsu went ahead and put that link up for my Twitter. So, hey, Twitter's probably the street that I frequent most, but I'm also commonly in the Xbox ecosystem. Game Bar makes it really easy for me to be anywhere that I need to be. And other than that, again, guys, if the age of accessibility has not wreaked its head for you yet, especially with a game like Hi-Fi Rush just coming out of nowhere and hitting you upside the head and telling you, hey, try me and being a complete experience, I don't know what else will. And if you want more from me and my live, raw, and uncut opinion, come check us out on Living Split Screen. We're on that road to 1K, a non-console-centric platform where we take that RTS approach, pulling ourselves out of the world, looking at the darker crevices of the map, pulling those resources together and building up that foundation so we can reach those 3 billion gamers that Phil Spencer always talks about. That's every Saturday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. UK time. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, chat, y'all were having some good conversation in there, man. And thank you, PTK, for having me on again. Much love to everybody.
I appreciate you, bro. And you guys know what to do. If you're new here, we always show love to our guests who come on and hang out with us. Please go down in the chat, follow them, support them. Go follow, do all that good stuff, man. And shout out to you, Steel. Once again, I know you guys are gonna hit your goal soon. You and Pong are phenomenal. So go please support Living Split Screen. It's the best way to get your morning started. There's a couple different podcasts, but that's one of my favorite ones as well. So please go show them some love and support, man. You're always amazing.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, Steel, man. Let me throw this over to you, Mav. Like I said, last minute addition, but your family, bro, you got an extra key to the front door, so you don't really need to knock. You know what I'm saying? So you're pretty much a part of the Shop podcast. But let everybody know, if they don't already know, Mav, where they can find you, brother.
A podcast is good when you're begging to be let in the door. Right? Good show, guys. Chat, you guys are always amazing. Fun Speculation on Twitter, Fun Speculation on YouTube. I'll keep it short. That's where you can find everything we got going on. Have a good one.
Awesome. And he's even under the weather. He made an exception. He's not feeling 100%. And he still made it in here. So I appreciate it. Glad we were having a heated discussion and you decided that you wanted to jump in. Shout out to Caitlin.
Had to come back up, my boys. You know what I mean? The Marchers. Yeah. Let's go.
The cult has to stay together, right? You can't be, everything has to be unanimous, right? That's how a cult works. So, but a shout out to you. Appreciate you, bro. Like I said, you family. You always welcome to come on the show, bro, any and every time, man. So thank you, Matt, for taking a little bit of time out to hang out with us as well. My two co-hosts here, these amazing gentlemen, make me look good every single week. We're gonna start with you, Pong. Battery of the show, man. Lots of discussions and lots of stuff to talk about. But it was a great show, bro. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Great night to be here with a lot of family tonight, which is absolutely fantastic. I always love our guests and getting different perspectives, but anytime I can be on with, obviously, you, PTK, and Fuzzy, but then to have, of course, my brothers come in, Steel and Mav show up unexpectedly, man, it's extra special, right? And we've had a great week this week of discussions, lots to talk about. The chat is fired up. Every chat that I've been in this week, as far as shows go, has been extra fired up. I think 2023's energy is starting off right. And what better way than to have a whole group of 4 other of my family members together and talk about this stuff, man. Great night tonight. Thank you all for being here. And again, chat, you guys were phenomenal. Great discussions in there. And I hope you're enjoying the content. Even when we discuss things that maybe you don't agree with or you don't want to hear about, we still try to make it fun and entertaining and come at it from a different perspective. As Steve always says when we do Living Split Screen. So appreciate you all for being here. Nothing but love and respect to each and every single one of you. So you guys already know the drill. Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. Tomorrow, it's been said live. I don't know if he's posted it yet, but I'm just going to say it live because he said it live earlier on Go Live. So tomorrow, going to be an interesting discussion tomorrow for sure. I am going to be on with Fonzarelli Gaming. Nice. That's right, folks. Nice. Games Talk Live tomorrow, one-on-one with me and Fonz. Fonz is outside of the 6-monther. He's a non-believer in Starfield. He had some comments today on Go Live. I was brought into the situation by Kay Asante. So we're going to have an interesting discussion. Fonz already have DM'd a little bit. We're going to have a fun time. We got a lot to talk about. He only goes for an hour. I believe it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time tomorrow over on Fonz's channel. That's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. It's been a while since I've been on there with him. So check that out tomorrow. And then, of course, the week starts over again, and it's Tuesday's Xbox Factor podcast. Mr. Boomstick, Double Barrel Gaming, every Tuesday afternoon, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time for all good things green. Xbox Factor podcast. Thursday, it is PM in the PM. Pong and Mav in the PM. We had a special guest this week. So go check it out. Dirt Griggity was on. Mav and I and Dirt had some great conversations. We had some laughs. Man, it was a great night. I think this week it's just going to be back to me and Mav, but we will see. But otherwise, every Thursday, Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. PM in the PM is the place to be. We got a great community growing over there as well. So check us out. And then, of course, we didn't have one last night, but most Fridays, it's Xbox Ultimate back on Fun Speculations channel, not 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Central Time for really ridiculous conversations. We laugh a ton. We go all sorts of ways in there, but we do talk a lot of gaming too. So show up every Friday. Fun Speculation is the channel, of course, and we're gonna give you some laughs, but we're gonna give you some things to think about as well there. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, my brother from another Steel Rain and I, as he's already mentioned, living split screen, all one word. We're on that march to 1K and then hopefully to 3K, as Steel has set the bar high this year, but we do need your help. We saw some new faces this morning as well. We've been seeing that a lot lately, which is great to see. 3+ hours every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3 p.m. UK time. Be there, buckle up and get ready, because the conversations, we get the chat involved a lot there as well. It's a great time. So check out Living Split Screen and tell a friend about it if you like it. But otherwise, golden age of gaming, people. It truly is. Next week, you're going to hear a lot of RTS talk from me. So get ready, because Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition is launching. RTSs are back, baby. It's a golden age. Play what you love what you play. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to y'all real soon.
All right, so before I move on, Decado just dropped a bomb super chat, $70.
Decado.
Yeah, in the super chat. So shout out to you, man. That is amazing. Thank you, and that's awesome support. He said hashtag Team Games. You goddamn right, Team Games. That's what we do here at the Shop Podcast. What we do here on the panel, and everybody here. That's what we're about. So we're about playing these games. Shout out to you for the support, Decado. That was amazing. Appreciate you so much for that support, man. Thank you. And thank you as well, Pong. Once again, bro, couldn't do it without you. Every single week, consistent. The battery, you always give me energy no matter what's going on, bro. I greatly appreciate you. And to wrap this up, to smooth it out for Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. Great show, brother.
It was awesome being on here. It was awesome having Steel and Mav on here as well. Always great just shooting the shit with you guys. Man, rough day for me, but man, you guys definitely made it better for me. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that came to watch us and listen to us and everything, and those will catch us on replay. If you want to hear any of my ramblings on anything gaming related, or some of my Forza takes, just follow me on social media, mainly Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on Xbox Lunch Break Special, on Double Barrel Gaming on Mondays at 12 noon, and then FSP at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fun Speculations channel, and then Breakfast with Boom 10 a.m. on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and then later in the evening, Xbox Ultimate right on Fun Speculations channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and then right back here 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Arizona time next Saturday. Look forward to seeing you guys here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Before I forget, shout out to Spindiferous for the $2 super chat. He said, I ain't got all that, but I like him too, though, player. Yeah, shout out to you, Spindiferous, for the $2 super chat. I know we love games, bro. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. So let me go ahead and wrap this up as well, man. So once again, I am the host here, PTK Blam. You can find me across the board. All that information for all of us here is down in the description below. Please go do us a favor and follow us. We're at a lot of different places, so that's probably the easiest way to keep up with us. But once again, just to reiterate, if you guys want to do this every single week, come hang out here with the Shop Podcast. The best thing to do is subscribe, hit the like button. Don't forget that bell as well, because you will be notified every time I put up a video and or we go live here at the Shop Podcast. So I greatly appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Please be safe. Same time, same place next week. Peace out, everybody.
Later.